conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you till we forget it all. How could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. You couldn't keep the door shut, and now the frostbite's creeping in. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here, so come home. Why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold. No Wizard of Oz can undo what I've done. Completely out of luck this time. I'm stuck in reverse. I gotta get away now, but I can't seem to take the lead. Oh baby, how could myself hoping that you'll find your way back to me. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home, why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold.
Hello everybody, I hope you've been having a wonderful day so far. We are here to make it just that much bit better. I am Jared the Music Man, I'm joined by Whippet, and we have the Badass University All-Stars League Playdate 12 ready and waiting for you. 2 matches today, we had 3 yesterday, and we're going to round out those 5 with a couple today. We've got some really good ones as well lined up for you, a lot of bottom of the table scraps. First up, we have a Lockdown Ludens, I always say that. They're no longer lockdown Ludens. They are just the Ludens. Restrictions have been lifted on the Turtle versus Poggy Woggies and Deviants versus Team 9. So, I mean, where do we start with it? Yesterday was such an incredible day of games, and today looks set to be some really good ones too.
Yeah, yesterday was a string of upset results and massive victories for teams further down the table. Biggest highlight, of course, is going to be Atlas finding a 7-5 victory on Clubhouse against Team Triton. Very much against the grain of things. I think we were both very surprised by it. And Joe's performance on Clash was very much something which was exciting to see, to say the very least. But it was a great play day, a lot of tense results, and when you look at the table, Imperium of Man them have begun to run away again, but everyone below them, from position 2 down to like position 6 or so, it is super tight and compact. Any team can make a surge to that midfield now, and we'll see if the Ludens can be able to launch that now, as they will be playing, of course, against Poggy Woggy.
Yeah, and if you want to have a look at those standings, we can't show you them on the screen today, but do head to the Liquipedia page, or of course to our Twitter, where they have just been posted, and you'll be able to see that it is really tight up there. Essentially, Imperium of Mandem, like you say, just right at the top on 14 points, but everyone else is scrapping around for everything. There's literally 3 points between 2nd and 10th, and the 10th place team and the 9th place team, who both sit on 6, are playing today. They're playing each other, so they're not going to both end up on 9 points and join the big 9 points club that is slowly growing. But it's still really, really tight and all to play for. In case you're wondering what the stakes are across this league as well, we have a fairly sort of interesting system whereby the team that finishes in first place gets immediately booking their spot in the finals after the playoffs. But everyone from 2nd to 9th has a crazy few days of playoffs where they engage in a double elimination bracket, and you get sort of preferential seeding. So 2nd to 5th get a place in the upper bracket, and then 6th to 9th have a place in the lower bracket, and they're all fighting for spots at the finals. So basically 10th is the only dud spot, and you really do need to be fighting for higher seeding, because it makes such a massive difference when it comes to a double elimination bracket. You've got best of 3s, you don't want to play so many games, and if you can win your way through on the upper bracket, then that means you've just got so much of an easier time, and you book your spot in the finals with far less stress and with better seeding as well. So it's an interesting league. It's a good way of making sure that every match counts. All of the games in every Playday really matter for something, right through from the start until the end. And the way that this league has shaped up as well, with the incredibly close matches, incredibly close standings, it's going to be completely impossible to predict until it comes right to the end who will be the champion this season.
It is going to go down to the absolute wire. And you did mention the one dud spot in our group stages is P10. And right now, the Ludens, they're in position 10. They're tied on points with Poggy Woggy, who, of course, are their opposition today. So this is a battle for who's going to be in that bottom, that drop spot at the end of this week. And I guarantee neither team wants to be there. Ludens, of course, a strong side. They've had great performances, but because of everything so tight and compact, a few dud results from them has now led them on this lower half of the table at the very bottom indeed. So can they begin that recovery drive, start building some momentum back up? And the same somewhat stands for Poggy Woggy, meaning they are further back. They're on the lowest points combined with Ludens. This could be the opportunity to launch an attack into that midfield and start putting themselves a little bit above that danger zone.
And Ludens being that sort of one of the exceptions to the draft system, coming in with their kind of established roster this season that they've competed in and outside of Bull as well. So being a kind of more established roster and an established team, you may have expected them to sort of be pushing for those top spots, and certainly it's not out of reach. I mean, we're almost near the end of the season, but because of how compact it is, they could easily end up first, potentially. So it's not that they've had a bad season, but it's that they probably expected themselves to have a better one. And we're talking about the players here, we might as well list them off. We've got Benji, KK, Proctor, Gady, and Jobu. Some very familiar names in that list. And on the other side of things, Poggy Woggy, this is one of those sides that was drafted together. The Hyde, Mo, Mr. Joe, Vabs, and Closer. And Vabs being a kind of stand-up name on that roster for having had experience on the Newell side that reached UKIN 2 last season. And you got to have a good close look at them in that competition. So, yeah, it's basically the two bottom seeds, but this really doesn't feel like a relegation scrap, does it?
That's one of the glorious things about this season so far. You can have a matchup right at the bottom, really scraping the barrel, at least for what it looks like in terms of the table. But these are teams that give 2 weeks, they might be fighting for the top spot. It's so many opposite results, so many bizarre standing changes, and I am very much looking forward to see what these teams can do. But we know the players, we now have to perhaps look at the map, and while we can't bring it up, at least visually, I'll have to be able to talk you through it. So the bands go in this order: Coastline, Villa, Chalet, Cafe, Consulate, and Clubhouse all didn't make the cut, leaving us with, well, everyone's favourite trip to a linear style map. It is Oregon.
Yeah, obviously we know how Oregon tends to play out. We know that it's very much a very well established map at this point in time, almost kind of supplanting the exact sort of status that old Oregon had back at the release of game. And sort of as that developed in comp, it felt a bit stale. They got rid of it, they reworked it, and it's come back and it's almost exactly the same, just it's different. It's different, but it's the same. And yeah, that ban phase, I think, obviously Coastline and Villa being the auto bans, because in case you're just turning up to Bull for the first time, we have auto bans in place of these best of one maps. You don't play the same game twice, or the same game map twice in a row, I should say. Chalet and Consulate being Luden's bans, I think, does speak to their kind of style. They want to go for these maps where they are very, very solid on their strategy, and they don't have to worry about anything weird or stupidly aggressive sort of catching them out. I do think, if I recall correctly, they may have had a real trouble on Consulate recently, or I may be mistaking them for another side. I will check up on that. But either way, makes perfect sense. Cafe and Clubhouse were Poggy Woggy's pair of bans. And they had the option to ban Consulate out of Clubhouse and Consulate. So yeah, that does speak to the fact that they are kind of... they had the option to ban Consulate when instead they chose to ban Cafe and then Clubhouse. So I feel as though they are looking to ban maps that are a bit more well understood and sort of established. And so going to Oregon may not be their favourite thing, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that sort of ban phase with it?
When I look at a team going to Oregon, I always somewhat in my mind think it's a safe pick for either side. It's so well rehearsed, well refined. Everyone knows exactly what they need to do, where they need to be, and how they need to do it. It rarely changes from scrim to game day, and a team that can perhaps throw a spanner in the work and be changeable and adaptive can really have success here. I don't believe we'll see anything like that as of yet. Again, I'm very open to be proven wrong, but it's going to be a very samey map, a very same experience of Oregon, because that linearity really does funnel everyone into the same gunfights round after round. One interesting thing is I was casting over North America last night, and this map is beginning to slide away from that defense-favored climate. It is beginning to get more attacker-sided every single time we see to play it, and while we don't have to waffle too much longer, as you see in the middle of our desk, we're going to go to our operator ban stage now, and a map that can be very much determined by what bans happen, and is this going to likely be a hard breacher, a Thatcher, maybe a Flores going to be in that attacking wave, but nothing really changes too much in terms of these first two bans.
Yeah, most likely. And to be fair to Ludens, they are very familiar with Oregon. They tend to ban out the Thatcher and the Mirror. So here is that Thatcher first off, and there's nothing too flashy about that. Worth mentioning that Poggy Woggies, they have played here once this season. It was the first week, and they actually won 7-2 against Team 9. So perhaps not the right case to be assuming that they're not as comfortable here. They last time banned out a Thatcher, but now they've got a free ban here essentially, and they're going to opt to beat a Flores. So yeah, very powerful operator on this map in particular, but overall just in general shifting the meta. And you really think about the impact that he can have dismantling an elbow hold on that bottom floor, and he will no longer be in position to do that because he's not in play. So we're going to have a slightly more old style of Oregon even, and I'm sure that will excite you a bit. Kaid is going to be the second ban there for Poggy Woggies. Again, locking out those hatches means that you've got a much harder task of taking the bottom floor. So removing Kaid makes it a lot harder to attack, or a lot easier to attack the basement, and of course the top floor where hard breach is also fairly important. And this final ban, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a Mirror. There we go. So the Mirror being the final ban for Ludens. They're sticking true to form, and why not? She's a very powerful operator, mostly on the bottom floor here, enabling a really, really easy hold of the laundry side, so you can pretty much forget about anything that is not just a construction and tower push. And yeah, I don't think there's too much to say about that ban phase, other than the fact that Flores is going to mean that we're seeing that slightly kind of more established traditional Oregon.
Yeah, well, Flores has been such a turn of the tide, a really refreshing operator to go into the climate because it helps clear away utility, and because utility on the defensive side is somewhat more restricted since the patch that did redirect where shields went. It seems like a long, long time ago now that we moved away from that utility climate, but it's still so ingrained in my head that we were there for so long. I can't forget the dark days of having to spend most of our round clearing a pixel shield on Cafe. It gives me shudders to that. But Flores, imagine if Flores is around in those days, how much easier it would have been. But positions like elbow, those Recaro drones can do a great job of clearing it away quickly without having to expose yourself. So having that not available is going to be some, perhaps, layer of concern. Looking at the operator lineups, I'd like to see that we have a redundancy of hard breach, but there's 3 getting brought out. So we have a Maverick, a Habana, and an Ace. They're definitely wanting to get through these walls, and this is a linear styles map. That makes sense. You want to be able to open up these angles and be able to put pressure directly on this side. But committing a lot of your team, 3/5 of your operator picks, towards hard breach, an interesting decision. They could have brought something perhaps a little bit more flexible, but the hide on Maverick can fill that somewhat of a flex position because our more aggressive style of play, because of the speed that Maverick possesses, and that M4 being a very good weapon to take engagements with.
It does mean that execute utility on the attacking side is maybe a bit lackluster. You do, of course, have the stuns on Zofia and maybe a couple of frags that can help you out, but nothing really too flashy. Like you said, putting a lot of stock in making sure that they get all the walls open that they need. And, well, they're going to need the assistance, of course, before that of Vabs and potentially the nades on Hyde and Joe to remove any sort of breach denial. It looks as though the mute jammer is actually still up by that closet wall. So, unfortunate aim there by Vabs, not quite connecting with the important piece of utility, but he does connect with Gady's legs and takes him down to about 40 HP on this upside down rappel. And this is also a decent position to try and remove that mute jammer from, but of course it needs to be done. You can see on the other side of things the Hyde trying to get to work on the attic wall, but Benji is the first to strike as down goes one of your nade players. You lost Mr. Joe very early on, that's Yana, and no direct response from Poggy Woggies.
Yeah, no one in a position set up to respond to that, breaking the golden rule of 3 seconds for a trade, and that's going to be a massive blow to the attacking side. Luden standing their ground and sitting pretty now with a 5 versus 4 advantage. Lots of time to recover it from PW, so it isn't going to be out of the ballpark that they can claw this one back, and considering this upstairs dorm side tends to be one of the weakest for the defensive side, teams have begun to struggle at holding on to this effectively. Eventually take a little bit of damage outside, the invert repeller closer will find some, but it's damage in trade if or in return as well lands, and luckily he escapes from that one with his life in tow. The AK-12 potent but couldn't finish off that kill, as Proctor is going to be able to get closer. The rest of the repelling ace no longer a factor. Those Selmas can't breach anything else open. And I mentioned, perhaps I was concerned about the redundancy bringing 3 hard breachers. Perhaps it was a good decision, already losing 1 in this round. A minute 10 left to work with and control of Addict's been established, but can they use this as a good staging ground to push forward and get control of the site? It looks like everyone from that position has fallen back further back, meaning that they're going to be able to sit and hold these angles and wait for the pressure of PW to arrive.
The problem is right now is that you mentioned the redundancy, sure, but both of those hard breaches are stacked towards the tower side, and they still haven't opened up this wall. As Vabs, look, he expects it to be open, but he hasn't gotten rid of that mute jammer. Still, it's a problem. So they don't have any real options here. They're going to have to funnel through these 2 choke points, essentially, or maybe Vabs can maybe sneak underneath and go for a white stairs push, but they're umming and ahhing, and Dux is going to punish that as Vabs does fall, and now it's all on the Hyde and Mosef. The Hyde rotating over to Big Window to try and give some sort of second dimension to this attack, but right now a lot hinges on Mo winning some really difficult gunfights. The Hyde does hold no more nades either to unseat these positions. It looks pretty shut out here by lockdown Ludens, and they have only a few seconds to burn. Mo does eventually get a move on. Proctor whips out the pistol to finish the Hyde by Big Window, and it's the SMG-11 to seal the Habana's fate. A very easy round, really, all things considered for Ludens, and they put themselves up a round.
They were never really put under significant pressure. PW, they were making the motions, but they couldn't make any of it work. Nothing stuck from them, from their attempt to get control of Master Bedroom being met directly from pressure of Benji, just not being able to get open that wall and have that split push work for them. So, we're going to have to go down. Attack the laundry, the supply room, a much harder site to break down from the attacking standpoint. And I am intrigued to see how this will play out. With a smoke in the hand of Giobo, that's going to be likely indicating a massive elbow hold. Being able to break that down without a Flores can be difficult considering Thatcher is also not available. Closer, 6 picks away from the ace, onto the Maverick, so bringing out that torch. And 2 nades as well, not something you can complain with, bringing their total to 4. And of course, Yana and Mr. Joe having them available as well. That could be a factor about clearing away these key positions, but keep your eye on elbow. That is a very pivotal fight, and we'll see how that one plays out as this round goes on.
It's quite difficult to put your eye on your elbow, unless of course you have a massive elbow, as you mentioned. I'm trying it right now, but yeah, my eyes aren't massive enough, nor is my elbow. So a bit of a challenge for you guys at home. Don't do yourself any damage, but yeah, have fun with that. They are going for this elbow hold, of course. I saw a horrible picture earlier of just some casual things. Basically, a player sticking a shield on that elbow, but right up against the wall, so that it, locked into the corner, essentially. And a load of ADSs behind it on the wall, and it was just like, yeah, you can see what's wrong with that setup. You need to obviously have that little gap, just to make sure that any ADSs that are placed down will actually catch any throwables. That being said, we don't have a Jaeger in play, and while Jobu is doing a little bit of redecorating here, I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that is. Maybe you can fill me in. Is it purely cosmetic? I don't know.
Not too sure, but again, every time a buckshot's used to open an angle, it's somewhat intended, or it has its purpose, so we'll see how that will play out. Looks like an early engagement might happen around the freezer stairs. Giobo on the roam, MX4 Storm primed already, not bringing the higher magnification. Doesn't spot the player creeping in the dining door. That's Mr. Joe who finds the opening kill. Proctor looks to try and get that trade, but finds himself on the wrong end of the ARX, and he's going to be 6 feet under. So a very rapid entryway from PW, finding themselves on a 3-5 advantage. And this is exactly what Ludens don't want. They try to commit to a roam presence, but it's fallen completely flat. And now already on the back foot with 2 minutes to work with inside of PW. They could just mount pressure. They could just be very difficult to contain as Babs finds that kill to Benji. And this is only going to cascade from here now in a 5 versus 2. 3 bodies stacking up inside of the freezer. And that's going to make it a very must-win engagement for whatever player Ludens decides to step up to the plate and take it. But it's so far in advance now as the Hyde finds one on the duck, and surely that is all she wrote now in a 1 versus 5. It's Giobo to try and keep the team alive in the second round, but it is going to be a fairy tale if they could do it, and that's not going to come true. It's a flawless round in favor of PW.
Interesting that we've flipped sides and there's that immediate response from Poggy Woggy. They essentially lost that first round on Dorms with a very sort of pedestrian approach, and it was virtually flawless for Ludens, and now we come down to the basement, and Joe has a very different fortune on the top floor. He was the first to die last round, and now this time around he picks up 2 on the entry. So very good stuff from the Yana. And yeah, there's not too much exciting going on. It's got to be said. This is very pedestrian, very simple, clear cut. Exactly how you should attack, exactly how you should defend rounds of Oregon. And I feel as though at some point, maybe these sides will start to read into each other. We're going to have another attempt of the basement now, and the onus is on Ludens to adapt, maybe bring a slightly different style, maybe just have slightly different tactics if they want to commit to this roam. Are they going to do it in a different way? Maybe have some rotates opened up or hold some crossfires, roam as a duo rather than as 2 single people, which seem to be a little bit disconnected in that round. It could be that. Or it could be as simple as, turtling up. Just having that 5v5 on site, wasting time, burning utility. They have gone with the same shield setup with no ADSs, although Jobu seems to be repositioning it now. And yeah, I don't know what they expect to happen, because right now Proctor is lone roaming, so he has to have some good luck this time round. Sorry, he is joined by Benji there, but they are fairly disconnected again, so I don't know. They've got this crossfire into small tower. I feel as though this is very, very risky.
I know this is a very centered around my experience with last time, but I was casting NA, and this is like Groundhog Day because the team has done the exact same method of entryway, and immediately the defensive team have read into it. It's I'm witnessing 2 games of Oregon in 2 different regions playing the exact same way. Who could have guessed it as this map is beginning? Oh, hello. Ooh. Hi, Proctor. Okay, That was nice, and he does it again! Proctor's insane! Well, Kector sends 2 bodies to the Shadow Realm. And now on, that roam presence making very effective use of that 45 APC, sending these bodies to the Shadow Realm and not even leaving a chance to bring back as that round kills the soul. Looks for a third and might just find it. Player is so close to the Goyo. Shots of landing just beside him, but no one knows his core position, and that might be a vital mistake for PW if they let him roam free and cause more chaos. But he tries to do so, he finds himself slapped down by the Habana outside. Left in DBNO, not known yet, but damage has been done. The roam has been stopped. It's going to be a 3 versus 3 with a minute 40 left to work.
He's not quite the Chaos Magician he was hoping for. Just setting himself face down defense mode in that tower for a moment, but he's slapped back down, sent to the graveyard. It's virtually unresable. No Proctor Reborn for him. So, the Hyde securing the kill onto Gady essentially means we're in a 3 versus 2 here with a fairly split push coming through, but these 2 SAS operators holding firm. They've still got plenty of utility and ways of burning time, but not if they die. Duck falls. Yobu now left in a 1 versus 3 with 25 HP, has all the gas canisters, and this is exactly what you want as a smoke to be able to clutch it up. Gets a gift in the form of Vab sprinting onto his face. Yobu now whips out the shotgun, but the Hyde is quicker with the SMG-11. Maybe you wanted to keep that close at hand instead. It's the SAS operator on the attack, the sledge, that ends that round.
Is it just me, or anytime someone is in a clutch position and they go into that small storage room, I get flashbacks of Dizzle and Fnatic beating evil geniuses in that position? Is it just me? It's so burned in that game. Magic. Go back and watch that Brazil final of Pro League. That was insane. That just for that one game where Fnatic really did begin that crumble of EG.
But also, stay here and watch this one.
Oh, okay, yeah. Stay here. Watch that later. Thank you. Good save, Jerry. This is why you're the professional.
Say you're not a professional? God.
Well, not to your caliber.
Nah, let's cut this conversation.
You're out here playing Mario Kart. I'm still stuck on Garfield Kart.
Oh man, I wish I was playing Garfield Kart. I just can't get my DS to work anymore. Like,
I believe it's on Steam.
oh no, wait. Okay, I'm buying it.
We gotta get a Garfield Kart stack going.
Okay, so my connection to vMix may suffer a little bit for this. I'm going to be downloading Garfield Kart over the next few minutes. So if I go all glitchy and roboty, it's that. But yeah, hang on. Search, store. That's what I need.
So while Jerry discovers the greatest racing simulator of all time,
do I want the lasagna bundle or not?
Yes, of course you want the lasagna bundle, Jerry.
Okay, cool. Adding to cart. Oh, it's 88% off.
It's always on sale. It's
great. That's a fucking bargain. £2.04 for Garfield Kart lasagna bundle. All right. Our observer is also downloading it. We have just been updated, so there may be some loss of quality to the stream while we do this, but rest assured the game will continue unaffected for the players. Meanwhile, Proctor is sitting in the same position as he was before. Will he, I don't know, I'm running out of Yu-Gi-Oh bits. What's better than a Chaos Magician?
I'm gonna say I have no clue about Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay.
So I can't help you on this one. If it comes to any card game or any form of entertainment that required me to think when I was younger, I completely said, nah, not interested in it. That's why I've got that goopy goblin gamer brain, and well, Proctor tries to line something up a bit spooky. A great angle set up, the red silhouette so close. He's going to be able to find the arm, but not enough damage to down or kill. Finds no damage at all under the sledge, and now position known and compromised. But that doesn't matter. Vobs falls left in DBNO, but the Hyde is there to pick up the pieces. And that's going to be an almost 1-for-1 trade. Vobs left in DBNO recovered now the 20 HP. Twitch won't be too keen to take any engagements from now on, but that F2, if you give that thing a single chance, a single frame to shoot first, you're going to be in for demise with that one.
Ooh, well-placed nade, but Gady just stepping out the range of it, sitting a few meters away, or just a meter really. Fab's at the top of White Stairs as they do try and pinch for this White Stairs and window push. Does claim one, but Gady comes out of nowhere and takes both Fabs and Mo down, and he's still in a position to be able to fight off this big window push. Diffuser is cold at the bottom of White Stairs as well. That's massive for Ludens here. They are sitting pretty. They have a minute left to burn, but the Hyde will claim Gady. The hero so far is out of luck, and now it's Duck and Jobu. Again, these two SAS operators, the final pillars, the final bastions of defense here. Oh, Duck looking away at just the wrong moment as Mr. Joe sends up those stairs, retreats at the faintest whiff of that toxic gas, and Jobu once again left in a 1 versus 3 here. It's going to be very difficult to retake, but if any operator can do it to this smoke, sends out a gas canister, but Closer is the one to close out that round, coming out of the hiding. There we have Poggy sending us ahead. They've finally got some daylight between themselves and Ludens. 3-1 the scoreline.
Well, this is very good for them on the attacking side of a historically defavored map, and they are now 2 rounds clear. Can they grow the gap? Can they find more pace and chance? Well, they're going upstairs yet again. This site, the dorms, is most vulnerable to that attacking side, and this really could be a great opportunity for PW to grow this advantage. And I mean, they've played fantastically so far, and Ludens have put up a good fight as well. It has come down to winning your ones, and I hate to say it, I truly do, but it is down to what team is being more proficient with their gunplay, finding the fights and finding the correct engagements and winning them out.
So we'll just come back to our lovely faces for a moment so that we can just let that sort of situation resolve itself with the rehost and things that are going on. Yeah, this has been a good turnaround from Poggy Woggy. After a lackluster first round, they've actually stepped things up on the pace of their attacks, and grabbing 3 in a row on Oregon is not the easiest thing to do. So you got to give credit to them where it's due. Proctor has been fairly effective on the roam, and it hasn't counted for much. And that's a bit of an issue. Despite Ludens gaining early edges, they've had an issue where their mid-round is very weak. They gather anything, and they find themselves in sort of 1v3s way too often. It seems as though once they gather maybe a couple of kills, there was a really nice moment in that round, Gady swinging on down the right stairs and grabbing a few for himself. Beyond that, there wasn't really any impact in the round from the defense, and I feel as though there's a sort of a philosophy that they need to implement, which is to help out your roamers as an anchor. So make sure that it's not just 2 units of anchors and roamers, but whether it's by supporting with intel or coming in and assisting, making sure that you're in a position to perhaps refrag. Just don't let it be that that one person or those 2 people die by themselves, and then you are left like sort of hiding and waiting for something to happen, because that hasn't really worked so far. There needs to be an adjustment in playstyle from Ludens, and it needs to happen now.
Yeah, they really cannot bleed away any more rounds, otherwise they're going to find themselves in a real uphill battle when they move to that side swap. And you've really hit the nail on the head with this one. The roam presence is working. They're finding those initial kills, they're finding the entryways, but the anchors, that's where it's slipping away. They're not locking down sight tight enough, and when it comes down to those high-pressure moments, they're just faced against too many players, too many angles at once, and that is always going to be a tricky one to win. Just look at that last round, for example, in a 1v3. Yes, a smoke's a great operator to do it, has all the right utility, but when you have 3 guns bearing down upon you, it isn't going to be an easy task, no matter the player, no matter the operator, and that's really where they have been falling away.
Yeah, it's been a ride so far for Ludens, but they can look back at how they won. For instance, there was a little bit of luck. I think that actually I really need to stop downloading, because it's as funny as it is that I'm downloading Garfield Kart right now, it is actually affecting the performance of this stream. So yeah, I'm going to stop that. My crisp, clean face will be returning to you in a few moments. I promise. Here we go. Yeah, I think it's getting better. It's getting better. So yeah, they had a decent round that first round. Let's dissect what went well for them that first round, and maybe this is what they're doing as we're talking, because they've got this opportunity to kind of catch up and adjust. It was almost flawless. They prevented the breach from happening mainly through luck, because it was a bit of negligence on the side of Poggy Woggy. Now, they look at that and they think, if Poggy Woggy struggle to open a wall, then they will struggle to win. So there are a couple of ways that you can make sure that that continues to happen, because after that point, there was really no resistance to any sort of breach or approach that Poggy Woggy wanted to take. They kind of dictated the pace of things. You can think about perhaps going for early picks on particular players, trying to make sure that you get the entries and then force a hard breach to try and refrag and make sure you get them. Now that of course is a very sort of frag oriented approach, but at the end of the day you're probably going to have to kill a load of people anyway. This is Siege. It's essentially a 5v5 deathmatch for a lot of the rounds. The other alternative is that you stack really hard on that Wardenal and maybe sort of control the map in a wider sense. I'm thinking like, if you're defending basement, maybe you do something as brazen as extending into meeting and locking off that area with castle barricades and bandit batteries. Maybe you do something similar with the monitor's position with a bandit or a mute. Just make it difficult to take that early ground that Poggy Woggy are successfully doing, and you may find yourself in a situation similar to the first round where their luck runs out.
Yeah, it really is going to be down into changing that core style, which is easier said than done from our position, but we don't have to wait too much longer to see, as we're going to be diving straight back into it, round number 5, and of course the scoreline leading PW 3-1 against the Ludens. It has been a dominant run since round 2 for PW, finding these 3 rounds in succession, and up to dorms we go once again. The Hyde is picking up the buck. And I like this a lot, because the verticality that Skeleton Key can bring on areas like that kitchen, where you can fire up, open up all of that bunk room, and make it very hard for anyone to play in that position, is a massive power play, and somewhat of an underutilized strategy brought up by many teams. And not to sound like a broken record, but again, last night I saw North American teams banning a buck on Oregon for that purpose, because teams they were playing against exploited the use of that strategy a lot, and it really was an effective one while in use.
We've also got a bit of flexing going on Luden's side, with Gady jumping onto a bit of a comfort pick historically. The Legion, a very potent operator in the right hand, and does have that effect of slowing down the opposition, which has been a problem factor for Ludens with the pace of Poggy Woggy's attacks in certain moments. It seems that they want to kind of operate in bursts at the moment, Poggy Woggies, which is a very good way of doing things, and those goo mines can definitely give you a bit more of an early read and maybe disconnect and disorient those attackers if you need it. More importantly, though, I want to focus on that Mozzie, because paired up with Duck on the mute, who's probably going to, let's face it, utilize most of those jammers in a fashion to sort of deter any breaching. This is still a good option on the Mozzie, just to make sure that it's a lot harder to hunt down that entry. I believe we were seeing a fair bit of Goyo instead from Proctor previously, and the Vector is certainly a very capable weapon in these capable hands. I want to see if Fabs nails this time. There we go. That's the angle you want, getting rid of the mute jammer. So, wait, did he? I heard the mute jammer sound. I didn't see a mute jammer. Either way, it was closer, if not successful. So, yeah, there we go. That is the confirmation that it was successful. The breach comes through, and this is much better for Poggy Woggies. They won their most recent Dorms attack. They struggled with the first one, but that was because they couldn't get this breach open. However, Proctor taking out Vabs is a blow to the attack.
Once again, that's going to be Proctor popping up, finding that opening kill. That's going to be your Ash gone. And I mean, there are worse operators to take a loss of early. Yeah, I would say losing a Hard Breacher now would be a larger blow than the Ash, so you're just going to have one less potent gun in the frame. Closer's going to use this torch to chew open this wall, gain access to the attic, and really help. Really good approach. They need to get the split execution working, though. We see the silhouettes over down towards master bedroom, trying to break the line, but a great drone there spots out the Mozzie, but the C4's been tossed out. He gets a great panoramic view of that getting tossed, but it will not land. Does no damage, as Closer is making an artistic attempt at opening up this wall, or at least making a vault-in avenue. I think that's going to be large enough now, but making sure, getting rid of all the rough edges. You don't want to cut yourself vaulting through. Come on, you get this. There you go. Surely that's big enough to vault in through. I believe it is. Grenades are going to get sent down to try and displace Duck. Don't believe there is an ADS there to protect him, so they might be effective. Flashbangs for good measure, trying to burn it away, as the Buck is in there for support, but likely to rotate away. Haven't seen that verticality being a factor, as I mentioned in our little prep round, and I am intrigued about why the Canadian operator was brought out, if that's not going to be utilized.
They have plenty of bodies here in the way Ludens, and of course the man advantage, but they don't really have any form of denial besides a couple of smoke canisters. Benji, though, is going to make sure that doesn't really matter as he takes down Joe. Once again, the Yana falls. Proctor with a second on the round, but the hide is there to take control of Attic, removing the mute from play, and that does give them some kind of opening in this 2 versus 4. Closer needs to try and net something as well on his escapades. In fact, they are stacked up inside of Attic, so the pair of them need to be very close. They need to get a couple of frags going their way, and that's unfortunate. Jobu finds the hide. No immediate refrag from Closer means it is almost done and dusted. Expecting the prone angle, though, and that's very heads-up play, but not expecting the aggressive swing from Proctor, who is on a real tear today. Does fall, but Benji's there to refrag, and that's how you play a 1 versus 4 if you're in the 4, is make sure that you're close enough to refrag each other, lock it out with style.
A great round for the Ludens, finding a round back and closing the deficit to a single round. If they can get victory here down on the basement, which is one of the highest defensive win rates on Oregon, they can get themselves to a level playing field moving onto their attacking side. But PW have been effective, they've been efficient in their attacking rounds up until that one. So can they find that magic once again? I wonder who's going to be 6-picking onto that Maverick. We've seen the operator brought out every single time. The ace is still on this side. Will Closer be 6-picking away? No, decides to stick it out. So they are already going to have 2 hard breachers. God forbid Mr. Joe grabs that Yana, which I honestly love the Yana. The grenades, the Gemini Replicator, the Gone 6 as well. One of the best kits inside a Siege climate right now.
Yeah, and if you're bringing the Habana and the Ace along, you don't necessarily need that third hard breach. So the Sledge makes a perfect alternative for Maverick, who also brings nades, and he can assist you with arguably a better weapon loadout. In fact, probably one of the best weapon loadouts on attack possible. You've got that lovely 2-speed and the SMG-11 as a secondary weapon. So it just means that in any sort of situation, you're ready for a fight. It's a flex operator's dream Sledge. You can do pretty much everything to some extent. So really, really nice choice in terms of just being able to flex onto that off the Maverick. You mentioned that so far Ludens have been, or Poggy Woggy have been effective in their attacks, and most potently on this bottom floor. We haven't seen them lose an attack down here yet, and we've seen, well, only really one style of it, and this is why Ludens are adjusting. They aren't saying they don't really care about the extended elbow hold, they're just locking it out, because both times Poggy Woggies have gone straight for this freezer laundry push. So they're being met with a little bit of resistance here. Proctor at the top of these stairs, as well as another defender at the top of the freezer stairs, and they're sort of essentially turtling here. This is pretty much a turtle strat. If they had the mirror, they certainly would have brought it. And Poggy Woggies, they need to get a good read on this. They need to have a couple of drones, just one, you know, one in lobby and one halfway up tower would be enough to pretty much confirm that they can take full control of the map, as long as they've done decent prep phase droning. But at the moment, it looks like they haven't. They're still trying to scope out the very top floor. So perhaps there was some good work done in the very early round. No, in fact, no drones lost. So this could have been slightly more efficient from Poggy Woggies, I would argue. However, it does look like they have finally clocked on. Duck, however, has taken the opportunity to lurk and go up tower, so that could be a bit of an issue for them later on. This is an odd round so far in terms of the ebb and flow of intel that's being gained and lost, and I feel as though, yeah, Poggy Woggies could be doing slightly better. However, they have gained control of Freezer, so they have a foothold in this round.
While having Freezer is a good staging ground to launch your execution deeper towards that site, you need to win these long-range engagements and damage traded off between the Wamai and Zofia. Benji tossed out another one of those pancakes to try and catch any potential projectiles getting tossed in. Protecting that shield might be the lifeline needed, and well, there's one of those getting used up. A second one as well, but the shield will be no more. A lot of utility burnt away, so Benji's cover is being reduced to nothing. Has to be aware and cautious of those stairs behind him. That might be an active threat as this round plays out, with the hide once again finds a great opening. Gady falls. Bob's traded off though by Benji. Benji looks for a second in a horrible scrap of that long-range fight. Has the optic for it, and not perhaps the greatest weapon. They're cautious, very much alert and aware that there's a threat there, but Proctor will realize that he can get that kill, but instantly traded away. It's a 3 versus 3 with a minute left in this round, and Benji knows he's left between a rock and a hard place. Has to tuck deep in by that bomb chassis. Rely on the teammate Smokes to be able to choke out that push from main stairs, as the players in Freezer are the prominent threat. But Mo finds a wonderful headshot. Benji gets another kill, and he might be the man of the hour to hold on to this with 45 seconds left to go. Needs to win the fight against Habana, as Close is going to fall. It's all down the Mo now. A difficult fight around the chassis. 30 seconds and time all in favor of Ludens, and the guns will come alive. Duck gets that final kill and wins it out.
Mo played that so well, but just couldn't land the shots, unfortunately. Got a full read on the movements of Benji, as well as the rotate coming through at the very end, but the recoil of the Bearing 9 just did him dirty in that situation. It's unfortunate to see, but that is the strongest that Ludens had looked at any point on their basement, and that was simply down to the fact that they reacted to Poggy Woggy's attack style. Now, you've got to say it's down to Poggy Woggy's there. They had a little bit of a hiccup in the early round in terms of trying to gain control of the top couple of floors. There wasn't really any kind of roam presence, and they struggled to make sure that the whole map was clear, when really it could have been a lot easier in theory. In practice, though, it can be difficult, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. The real issue, in my mind, is that they didn't really adjust their attack strategy at all to what Poggy Woggy's brought out. They could have had free reign of elbow, for instance, and decided, hey, we're going to finally, do that bait and switch. We've attacked twice into Freezer and won it, and we force you to adjust your defense strategy to make sure it points towards Freezer Laundry. Now we can just backstab you the other way. And if they'd done that, they may well be sitting on a 4-2 split on attack, which would have been fantastic. But I feel as though they missed that opportunity here. Ludens have pulled it back. They managed to now sit on that 3-3 scoreline, which they sorely needed going into attacking half.
It somewhat acts as a bit of a revitalization for them. It's going to a level playing field, a great equalizer, and now they have to be able to stick it out and find some success on the attacking side. But as I've mentioned before, this site upstairs in dorms is the most vulnerable to lose on the defensive side. So, well, other than a tertiary, out of the two primaries, it is the weakest one. So, Luden's in a great position to find a good launch to their attacking campaign. Will they be able to do so? That's a different question. Proctor wheels at F2, an operator that I see a lot, or Twitch, an operator I see a lot on a map like Oregon. Perhaps the close range encounters really do benefit that F2, as Mr. Joe tries for a cheeky angle through that punch hole, but doesn't connect any shots. Takes around 1 round for his effort, so he's going to scamper back, stay alive to fight another day, but perhaps even stay on that roam presence and queue up with Vabs, who, if this dynamic duo can get to work, might cause some chaos from Ludens.
It was very odd to be halfway through a map and see our first Valkyrie and our first Jaeger at the same time. There's been none of that from Ludens on their defensive half. They have their comfortable way of operating, but this seems like an advantage too good to shirk. In the meantime, though, Proctor is very happy to sit on another slightly off-meta pick in that Twitch, and we'll see if he can get some work done with those drones, but more importantly, the F2, which is a very nice weapon to have in your hands. Vabs and Joe right now on this dual roam inside of meeting. They're just lurking beneath while Ludens try and set up their pieces, get ready to get some breaches going. They are taking their time, however, with about half the round gone and absolutely no entry set even close to Armory or Master Bedroom. Ludens need to make their mind up fast.
Time draining away. They don't have a lot of it left to work with, and they need to find a core way in. They need to find the opening kill as well, and that will be Vabs, who suffers the opening casualty. Poggy Woggy is not too keen to take another engagement that turns that way, but Mr. Joe looks for that trade. The Gemini replicator getting deployed and sent in. Mr. Joe is going to be able to disrupt that, deny any extra information gain, but his position compromised and now known. A minute in this round, advantage for Ludens. We hear the walls being opened up and pressure mounting on the site directly, but for everyone on Ludens, they're very spread out, very alone and isolated. And this C4 is going to land, surely. Yes, it is, as Mr. Joe finds Gady and gives us back to a level playing field. And here's a players active on the server. Less than a minute now, 45 seconds. Joe's still on the hunt, looking for more action. And this is one I mentioned, though. Ludens so spread out and isolated. No one is there to assist on the trade if needed. They're all going to have to collapse from separate angles and win their ones. And this is not how you want to set up an attack. You want to have utility and crossfires established. And this is going to be a dire 30 seconds. I think PW can just hold this one out, but they're going to suffer the first casualty now as pressure mounts towards the objective. An instant trade, though. Mo's going to be able to get into the action. Gio falls. 20 seconds and a 3 versus 3. Make it a 3 versus 2. Make it a 3 versus 1. Ludens collapse to perfection. And the isolated, the lone wolf strategy works out for them, and they get every gunfight in their favor.
Poggy Woggy just couldn't keep tabs on that many attackers. You saw it. There was one very important trade that came out at the very start where we saw one defender win their one, but quite crucially, Attic was lost. And that meant that there was a real foothold deep inside the site that everyone on Poggy Woggies had to turn their attention to. They have to respect the Attic player. And it just meant that, well, we saw in the final kill cam even, there were a couple of defenders that just weren't aware of big window presence. They weren't aware of people inside the site or lurking into closet. It's a really tough one, because early on, if you know, as defenders, win a couple of those ones, then suddenly you've got all the pieces in your favor. There's no problems, but Ludens, they just lent into the chaos there. They had a fantastic mid-round, it has to be said. I remember handing off to you, Rip It, and saying they had not done enough. They were about halfway through the round. There were barely any breaches open. There wasn't any people inside a master. It was looking really rough for them. But I feel as though they must have prepared so well. They must have gotten drones into really good positions and just said, right, we're going and we're doing all of the utility, all of the breaching, and then the executing in this last minute or so. Somehow it worked. I'm a little bit perplexed to that, honestly. Poggy Woggies maybe will be scratching their heads as to how Ludens managed to mount such a potent attack so quickly, but in the end, like you said, it did kind of come down to losing a few ones, so I don't think they'll feel too hard done by, and Poggy Woggies certainly have the ability in their roster to win those ones when they do come that way. This time around, it may be a little bit more understandable in a sort of strategic sense, because we've got ourselves a basement hold, and you're unlikely to fall victim to a sort of a very similar style of attack where everyone's pinching from different directions. Who knows though, maybe Ludens do want to bring this out as their positions are fairly spread in this early round.
Again, if a team is comfortable doing something and it works, we can't dispute that one. But from a standardized perspective, it always is sketchy to see a team so spread out and isolated, not having that re-trade-off potential. That might be a factor again, though. We see two players trying to push in from blue, get that initial control, the high playing an elbow, shield intact, and ADS is there to protect it as well. Shield in a great position, not up against that wall as you mentioned. You had to witness the horror of the other day, so they're going to be in a great position to hold on to that one. Drones getting used, time being taken to gather information, set up a push, get that entryway denied or opened up pretty easily. Downstairs though in Freezer, that's going to be Duck leading the charge. Inox kind of looking for a way in. Gemini Replicator leading that charge, and that gives a chance to breach on through, follow it up. No one's going to be directly behind it, but that Banshee will slow down any progression. And of course, easier to deal with now that they're going to be shot. Duck's going to be behind the opening kill. Mo falls. Gatey's going to get traded off by Vabs. Proctor though is going to find Vabs in return. And a great opening now for Luke. 4 versus 3 advantage sits with them to fight. And a wonderful shot from Joe. A great line of sight, and Closer gets into the fight as well. One more in Freezer to find, and that's going to be Duck. A great weapon to brawl with will be that Jackal AR, but takes a little bit of damage and doesn't want to get too aggressive, but his opposition will. He wins it out even with the disruption. The Inox taking damage on a 2 versus 2 tag team matchup left, and a minute on that.
Oh, what a pro peek right there from Mr. Joe. He's just continuing to add to his show reel here. Joe be the last one standing. Maybe some way of securing it. There we go. The C4's the ticket, as Jobu now inside the laundry does give their position away. Mr. Joe can now tuck himself tight into this bomb chassis and ask for the crossfire to be taken up by the Hyde, who does come close to that rotate but doesn't have the opportunity to get in position as Jobu fires some warning shots. Oh, mounting this laundry machine, washing machine, that's what they're called. Trying to get the angle. Sends out a breach, maybe just a bit of a decoy for the time being, but Mr. Joe plays that perfectly. A wonderful 3K from the MP7 of that bandit, and that is a solid defense looked up by Poggy Woggy. We are tied back up 4-4. This is so back and forth, Whip It.
Back and forth, no team wants to give an inch, and this is what I love to see. Oregon comes down to the wires so often and requires a little bit of magic from someone to step up to the plate and begin to grab these rounds by the scruff of its neck, and no one's done that yet. No one's been able to find that many successive rounds outside of PW at the beginning, but Luden's looking strong on the offensive side now. As you mentioned, 4 rounds apiece, round number 9 to go, and upstairs to dorms we return once again. Now, last time Ludens attacked this site, we saw that they were very spread out. They didn't have a lot of those core steps on the checklist that you tend to see teams who get victory have open or ticked off. They just went in, won their gunfights, and had that level of confidence. Will that work for them again, or will we see them revert to a more traditional default level strategy where they can open up the angles, apply pressure, and begin to systematically break down the layers of defense that PW have established?
They've certainly been hitting their shots since the rehost. Obviously, the stats are somewhat skewed because of it, but look at Benji and Proctor both sitting on 6 over not too many rounds, and Benji only having died once since that restart. So, very good stuff from the Ludens just in terms of individual fragging, and that is good in terms of, you know, trying to secure rounds. We've seen it make the difference, for instance, on that first Dorms attack that you mentioned. It really did just come down to winning the ones. So, Mr. Joe is continuing to be a little snake, and this time around having a bit more of a roaming presence inside of meeting. In fact, this is exactly how he played that first round, but I'd be surprised if Ludens aren't wise to it this time around. He landed a C4 from roughly this position straight into Attic, so I think Ludens will be a bit more cautious where they tread from now on. They are stacking fairly heavily on this tower side to begin with, and they do have a read on the position of the Valkyrie, but the Valkyrie also knows that she's been droned, so we'll head into kitchen, and she's got quite a playground on this middle floor to work with as long as those attackers aren't pinching from the other side of the map, and it doesn't appear that they are doing that. In fact, as I say that, you can just see the silhouette of Proctor, I believe, on the Twitch approaching from that dining side.
No engagements yet, and this is pretty standard for Oregon. Time will be taken before you want to take that initial step in the building, or dare put yourself in danger. Drones inside of Checker, getting a lot of information, but not finding Mr. Joe yet, who's being patient, being concealed. Will destroy that drone. It was an active position, will be known and compromised, and wanders into the waiting arms of Benji, who will not take that freebie for granted and find the opening kill. Mr. Joe falls, Valkyrie gone, and C4 now lost. An up nade is getting tossed out, but doesn't land, doesn't connect. Timing was just a fraction off, and no damage done, but Zoe will take some in, or Mo will take some in return, fighting against that F2 down below. And as everything begins to get a little bit more tense in this round, we see Vabs inside of server, unknown, and waiting, lurking, trying to be opportunistic and striking when the time is right. He will do so, and might be able to find 2, but that was a Gemini replicator. His position now known and compromised and shut down instantly by Benji. And well, Ludens, a very rapid collapse. Don't even give them a second chance, as they will take it on the first, and that is Ludens once again, going 1 round up. What a showing from them, what a return, what a bounce back we've seen from the Ludens on the attacking split, now leading 4 rounds to 5.
Especially on that top floor, they've been so potent there, and that time around we saw it be a little bit more, a little bit less individual from Ludens. They kind of executed at the same time as finishing off the roam hunt, with those 2 players pushing down from Dining Hall and another pushing in Attic, another pair of them pushing from Attic, that is. Benji did a great job to refrag his teammate and, of course, his own hologram, and that was pretty important because otherwise we would have seen a really, really nice bit of roam play from the Wamai. Unfortunately, it was a little bit disconnected. The 2 roamers of Joe and, I want to say, I'm trying to remember who the Wamai was. Was it Mo? It may have been Mo. I can't quite recall. Either way, the Wamai. They were a little bit disconnected in that they weren't helping each other out on the roam. There was no rotate inside of kitchen, and I feel like if you're going to play that kind of roam, you do need a bit more flexibility in the map. Either a rotate in kitchen to monitors, or a rotate from kitchen to meeting, so that you can actually support each other. And they got hunted down. The Joe hunt was a very time-consuming one from Ludens, so he did do his job. However, he did die with no sort of gain, and then the Wamai only got 1 for his troubles, and by that point, there was this kind of, dual push going on, where Ludens did manage to execute onto Attic very nicely. So they are ticking every box, Ludens, right now. They're doing everything right, and that can be a tough thing to stare down when you're Poggy Woggies. You know, they have a good roam clear, they have a good execute. How do we fight them? What do we do?
I mean, the big thing for right now is the Ludens aren't making many mistakes, and this is exactly what a team needs to do to be able to claw back around Devastated and find themselves in the lead.
Okay.
Be as flawless as you can, and this is a great showing from them so far on this attacking side. There's questionable decisions, of course, like how spread out they are, but when they make these rounds work, and those mistakes aren't being punished by PW, these questions gotta be asked.
Yeah, there's some questions I'm asking. In fact, our observer is asking as well. Why static wall on this meeting defense. They're playing very aggro, and right now Vabs is being punished for it. Again, the refragging of these Yana holograms is working perfectly for Ludens on the attack, and luckily for Poggy that reinforcement in attic wall, or the lack thereof, may not be an issue, because this is a full kitchen push here as Joe has shut down Gady. There's no one there to immediately refrag, or at least Duck is, but he doesn't commit to it. The Hyde takes out Benji, and this defensive hold is working out. Jobu rather, trying to create a line of sight into kitchen by opening up that wall. And I feel as though Ludens may have missed an opportunity here. They had control of the top floor to a certain extent, and they could have helped use that to help flush out this presence inside of monitors that is causing them so much pain, but they're not committing to it. They left another piece up there in the form of the Hyde, who's just sitting above and waiting, and it's going to be really difficult to push into kitchen at all when there's an effective vertical crossfire going against them. So they have to do something. You have to find either some picks onto these players inside a site who are tucked away in monitors, virtually unreachable, or they have to commit to a push up the stairs. At the moment, they're just dawdling and doing neither.
Oh, well, with less than a minute left to go, they've got to make a move on. They have to make something happen and be somewhat quick about it. They're very far away, alone and isolated away from that objective, and this might be a very tricky task. Low HP as well for Proctor, and that's not going to make the job even easier, considering they have to fight against 4 reasonably high HP defenders, well, 3 high HP defenders still on full. Joe has taken a bit of a beating throughout this round. Saria Gate still in play, again slowing down, forcing them to commit utility and waste a vital second before they can breach on through. 25 seconds left to work with. Saria Gate's being burnt away, but all that's going to do is ring the dinner bells, and PW are surely going to know where this active threat shall arrive. They've fallen back, the front lines have retreated, but they can just sit, hold crossfires, and wait for the pressure to mount. And a great angle set up to hide upstairs, waiting for everyone to walk on into the death trap established. Timer hits red, the plant's going to try and go down and check up, but a C4 toss at the perfection. Proctor gets one, but time is all against him, and so many guns trained and ready. That will be the round for PW, tying us up in terms of round count once again.
I wish we'd seen them do that just a bit sooner, Ludens. They had the right idea. Go for that soft spot of the meeting site. I always think that it's worth going for meeting rather than kitchen when it comes to a kitchen meeting defense. It's just an easier site to take, surely, especially when there's no reinforcement in attic. They just neglected it as well when it came to that quick rotate. No attempt to send Jobu upstairs with a Selma or anything. They maybe overestimated Poggy there and thought, oh, they must have reinforced it, they must be denying it with a bandit or something. No, it was completely soft. It would have been easily opened by Zofia or anything really in that situation, and they didn't account for it. The Hyde just dealt death from above. That is quite simply what happened. It was not that difficult for Poggy to lock that down once they read into the quick rotate coming through from Luden. So we're sitting at 5-5, and this is Oregon. This is standard Oregon. Back and forth. It's really tough. It's nail-biting stuff, but it's just a grind to the end right now, a bit.
Yes, Oregon's a war of attrition. It's not going to be won quickly, and every single round comes down to the dying seconds. It's just the nature of this map, and it's why it's such a popular one for teams to bring out, because it gives them an opportunity. It's going to be traded back and forth. Everyone knows how it's played, and well, this is a perfect example. And everyone knows how every single round should work, and it is going to be a back and forth trade. Round 11. We're going to see the end of regulation. All 12 rounds will be needed to separate these teams. And of course, if you're joining us for the first time or you haven't been following too closely, we have a system where if you win in regulation, you get all 3 points. That's fantastic. That's great. Every team wants that. But if it goes to overtime, the victor takes 2 and the loser will get that 1 consolation point, meaning their efforts to get past regulation are rewarded in some capacity. And I think I have a sneaking suspicion overtime might just be on the cards for this one, as another slow round likely to arrive. The shin spotted out by Mr. Joe. Second time they've tried this. No one's going to be able to find that. No one's going to pre-fire it. Doesn't find any damage for his efforts neither. So back to a more methodical, slow approach. This is Oregon. Going to be a while before the first fight or first engagement or first kill happens. So sit back, relax, and well, let Jerry's voice guide you through it.
My tasty, supple tones. Vab sitting in pillar. He's being sort of given double duty here. He has to play pillar and Shiko. Apparently no one supporting him there. However, he does have Mr. Joe holding the long angle from deep inside of sight. So it'll be very difficult for the Ash to peek. Oh, he does get a whiff of the hat, but doesn't shoot. And Proctor will take Vab's head clean off. That is pillar control in the hands of Ludens, whether they know it or not. A quick drone will confirm it. Mr. Joe deciding to fall back. We see a lot of reloads going through. Benji and the Jackal of Duck pushing from Freezer. This is a three-pronged approach here. They're relying quite heavily on Proctor to be successful, as he has been so far inside of Small Tower, but the Hyde could shut down this construction squadron with some well-played shield defense. Mosef is holding off on the push with these gas canisters. He's tempted to swing around the corner with his shotgun, but not too tempted. He's playing it safe. This is so tense. It's gonna boil over somewhere, and I can't tell where. But Proctor is repositioned to Laundry, so will they expect this?
This is a powder keg, and who will be the spark to ignite it down in Laundry? As you mentioned, that's going to be our Ash, the Proctor. This is going to be a critical moment. Can they find anything? They'll find the back of Closer. A lot of damage done to Wamai. Not enough to down or kill, but enough to compromise their position. Gemini Replicator swings around, got met by Mo, but he's going to swing C2 and not want any of that action. SMG-11 primed and ready, but the pre-fire of Duck connects and finds the kill. Benji's going to dive into the action. Proctor as well. A wonderful collapse by Ludens, and now in a 5 versus 1, 5 versus 4, make it 5v3. The Hyde finds 2, but can they find more? Yes, they can, but shut down by Ludens. A sweaty palms moment. There's the Hyde. Perhaps saw glimpses of a future where they can find a 1 versus 5 clutch ace, but it will be made no more as Ludens move onto match point, guaranteeing themselves at bare minimum 1 point from this matchup. Can PW claw their way into overtime, or will Ludens be able to grab the map victory right here, right now?
That really was a powder keg. Ludens did such a brilliant job with all of their engagements. We saw the sort of epitome of it in that Freezer take. A great bit of refragging the drone, as I like to call it, refragging the hologram of Yana being done by Duck on the Jackal, and then from that point on it just flooded in. The Proctor knew that there couldn't be an angle being held from Freezer, so he had a bit more free reign to push deep and take the fight into Laundry. Won his one. As soon as that happens, it's just a tempest and waterfall of kills coming through. And sure, the Hyde did a fantastic job trying to claw it back and grab some really, really nice kills in the 3K that eventually ended in his demise. But you got to think as well, if the timer had been a bit lower in that situation, those few kills may have been just enough to secure the win. Unfortunately for Proggy Woggies, wasn't to be the case. Lockdown Ludens, or Ludens as I keep forgetting to now call them, they are forever Lockdown Ludens in my mind, finally sit on match point. It's been such a back and forth, especially this second half, no one being able to string together more than a round, and now we're heading back to Laundry, where so far it's been split success. We've seen one successful defense here, mainly off the back of Joe landing some brilliant kills as the Bandit, and the Hyde also doing a good Joe impression in that round, but just a bit too little too late.
I don't know why, but as Hyde was fighting away and found those 3 kills in rapid succession, even though this clip is nothing even close to what it was, but Hungary's, I believe, 4 or 5 second ace against Nora Rangu all those years ago popped into my mind, and it was just something so similar. I remember it was kill 4 Hungary found, the shot that landed deep inside of the office on border. The kill the Freezer player, that reminded me of that so much, and I was getting flashbacks to it. But Mr. Joe once again sets up to find someone's toes and does so. That's going to be Benji first of all, and Ludens already suffering a casualty. I said overtime was very much on the cards, and we're going to claw our way even closer to it. Vabs on the roam, on the vigil this time. The Wi-Fi router on their back is going to make it hard to pinpoint their exact position, and Duck's going to try and do that right now. No drone, no direct support as well, and they're so close to each other, but Vab's very much aware, only a meter or so difference, and they're going to be on the opposite side of a wall, but Vab's staying patient and alert. He's going to be a very opportunistic slayer if the chance arises, and that might just now. The Ash shift W's in, and it gets met by the K1A. A demise that no one wants to find themselves, but Duck is there to hunt down an instantaneous trade, but Ludens still find themselves 1 player down, and this might be a difficult round to claw back, considering they are attacking the basement side of Oregon. This will be a very tricky round for them.
Duck has been such a consistent force for Ludens, always picking up those refrags, but turning our attention to this round, we do see construction control in the hand of Ludens. That is a great foothold to have, especially if they get the read that there is a limited amount of defenders here. They, of course, have to face off against Mo, who is sitting close on that bomb chassis. Does grab one. A 2 versus 4 now for Gady and Duck. It's going to be tough. Duck does grab one, and that's a second on the round. We've got ourselves a very close situation here. They are in a position where they could plant, but they must know that there's someone inside of Freezer. There are ways of avoiding that angle, but only one person on the cover means it's a very difficult plant, and the diffuser is dry inside of Blue. Duck is sent round to pick it up and does manage to get away with it. 27 seconds left. Poggy Woggy's playing very patient here. They want to guarantee overtime. They don't want to risk it too tucked in right close to that closet, but a well-placed nade by Gady will find one and a second. Duck closing it out after the double kill from Gady. What a brilliant 2v3 from them, and that is Ludens finding themselves a win in regulation time here, grabbing all 3 points on Oregon.
Ludens, what a collapse yet again, showing attacking the basement side of Oregon. Even with the man disadvantage, they don't care. They'll collapse, and they'll do it spectacularly. A 7-5 victory for them inside of regulation, meaning they take all 3 points from this, and that will move them off the bottom of the standings. And somewhat in a fitting fashion, that will now leave PW on the bottom of the standings for this week. They can't recover anything else, so they'll be in that drop spot for now. But everything so close, so compact from this. And you got to think, Ludens only trailing Team 9 by a single point. That could be an upset, and very much depending on how Team 9's matchup will go, how this bottom fight will sit. As Team 9 will be next, of course. They'll be playing the Deviants in our second game of the day. But what a performance from Lockdown Ludens. Absolutely stellar.
Yeah, it really was. And if I have to give a little sticker to anyone on the side of Ludens for that win, it's got to be Proctor. Proctor, at the very end there, you may have caught it with a little R6 analyst tab. Of course, the stats somewhat skewed by a rehost after round 4, but from that point on, 100% cost. Absolutely insane from Proctor. And before that, I've got his name down as having had an opening kill as well. And, so the impact that he had throughout that game cannot be understated. Brilliant performance by that one individual, but it wasn't an individual victory. It was a team victory from Ludens. They were all fantastic, everyone popping up at different points. And yeah, I feel for Joe, because Joe had an absolutely mad game on the side of Poggy Woggy as well. Some really high impact plays, but comes away with it with no points. Either way, what a game, what an Oregon. Fantastic one to kick off the night. And like you say, Whip It, we do have one more game. It is going to be Deviants versus Team 9, but we'll be back with that one after a fairly short break, so do not go far.
conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you till we forget it all. How could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. You couldn't keep the door shut, and now the frostbite's creeping in. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home, why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold. No Wizard of Oz can undo what I've done. Completely out of luck this time. I'm stuck in reverse. I gotta get away now, but I can't seem to take the lead. Oh baby, how could you left me here, so come home. Why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. Big black hole, it got me stone cold.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Badass University All-Stars League Playday 12. We have our final game of the week for you today. I'm Jerry the Music Man. I'm joined by Whippet. Whippet, Deviants and Team 9.
Hello.
This is going to be a good game, I hope. And also, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How's your Garfield cart download going?
Oh, you know what? I had to pause it, and I should have unpaused it during that game, shouldn't I? I've done myself not a favour.
You're gonna miss out on min-maxing the amount of time you can play Garfield cart this evening.
Damn it.
Like, somewhat disgraceful, but you mentioned that we have. I think we have a game to get through before we can start thinking about how to speedrun Garfield Kart. So it's going to be Team 9 versus the Deviants, and I mean, let's look at the teams at least on the standings where they sit. Deviants are in P6; they have 8 points to the name, and Team 9 down in P8 right now, and that's going to have 7 points to the name. I believe with Ludens, of course, getting victory, that's a little bit out of date, but that's how the standings were sitting at the start of this Playday. So again, Ludens' victory, 3 points, puts them up to that 9-point gang, so that will force Team 9 down a position. So a pretty critical game for them right now. Again, with everything so tight and compact, Team 9 want to be able to get that victory to go a little bit closer, move up deeper in that table. And the same sits with Deviants. They're sitting outside of that top 5, and they want to be able to break into that threshold. And they're a single point away from joining that 9-point gang. So, you know, they're very much able to do so if they can find it out within overtime loss today. They'll join the gang, but they're going to be looking for a victory, whether in regulation or in overtime.
Yeah, and a victory in regulation or overtime would put them in second place and firmly ahead of everyone on that 9-point gang. So that would be really, really good for them. Fun fact as well, Team 9 are, after that last win, now Team 9. They are in 9th. Like, they are Team 9 all through and through. So that's cool. I was looking at the map bans earlier. Or not the map bans, but the map bans that these teams have done previously in the season. And honestly, I try and predict what's going to go on. With this game, it looks like they're both teams that are trying to figure out what's going on. Like, their map bans have very little consistency to them. They seem to end up on very different maps quite frequently. But maybe a cafe, maybe a villa has a possibility of showing up today, just based on sort of history so far. Again, the preface being that these are newly formed teams. These are players that don't often play together as a team outside of this league, potentially, because of the way it's kind of pools players from different universities. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense that they're trying to figure things out, swapping roles potentially, even in like not just from match to match, but mid-match and stuff. But it's going to be a good one, I think, because I mean, I have no reason to believe not. Every single game so far has been a good one. Like, this week, this league, it's all been really entertaining, really, really close stuff. And yeah, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, it will be a very close one. I mean, I am just so intrigued about how this, and I sound like a broken record every time we're in these prep stages, but I always peer over my other monitor and I just see how close these standings are. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's so tight and compact, as you say, Team 9 in P9 right now, but a victory puts them right in the middle of the pack, and it leaves them in a great position moving into the next Playday. It is absolute insanity how close all of these teams are from top to bottom. And Imperium have manned them right now on 14 points, somewhat forging a gap between everyone else. And I wonder if that will continue. But, you know, Team 9 Deviants in midfield teams right now, safe from the drop. I believe at the end of this week they'll all be safe from that, of course. More points than PW will have at the end of it. So they are safe from the drop right now, but they want to put themselves as far away from P10 as they can. And a victory here today will leave them in a very good standing as they move to next week. And
speaking of how close it is, we're very close to the start of our game, so we can reveal to you what that map is that we're going to be heading towards. It is Clubhouse. So none of my predictions, I couldn't have predicted this. We are on Clubhouse, and the ban phase has already begun. In case you're wondering about the totality of that ban phase, you can look it up on Wikipedia when it's posted afterwards, but Oregon and Chalet were the auto bans. Coastline, Villa, Consulate and Cafe were the way those panned out. with defense banning first. So work that out in your own time. But here we go. We have a ban phase on Clubhouse, and Flores and Maverick being removed means that we have a Thatcher in play. Now that is pretty interesting for a Clubhouse. It's going to speed up the rate of play quite considerably. It does mean that we may even see, if Kaid makes his way through the ban phase, some really interesting kind of Kaid tricking and juggling going on potentially. It can be difficult for teams that haven't practiced together quite as frequently to get the timing of those sort of things down, unless they've been really hammering home a lot of ranked and used to sort of teaming up with random teammates and making sure that that coordination is always there. I don't know, Thatcher never gets played in ranked anyway, so like he's always banned, so it's very unusual. And Kaid has made his way through the ban phase, so we are going to get a lot of that kind of back and forth in terms of the utility juggle. A very sort of old style of Clubhouse potentially coming out with these bans.
This is a real throwback to a retro time, it feels like, of Siege. And I do like seeing a Thatcher available. It will speed up the way teams break through these walls and might make a linear map like Clubhouse a little bit more open, a little bit more flowing. Well, only time can tell. Gym Bedroom, the first side of choice, getting brought out, and I'm a big fan of this. Typically, or at least traditionally, a tertiary side, but we've seen in recent memory it's risen up. Lots of teams are beginning to feel far more confident on it, and there's lots of effective ways you can set up a very strong strategy on it. We're seeing a 6-pick away from that Bandit onto that Ella, and I wonder, will it be an FO12 or a Scorpion Evo? Well, again, only time can tell for that one. Maui's going to be 6-picking from Montaigne to Montaigne, one of the biggest brains changes I've seen in a long time, but if set up correctly and used efficiently, Montaigne with that shield can be such a massive advantage for the attacking side. They can walk in, take map control for essentially free, and have a roaming drone that no one can destroy and will have to displace people, because you don't want to be too close to that, as it can very much, that shield can get dropped in a very quick timing, and you might find yourself with a 9mm round in your head or getting bonked by a very firm piece of metal.
Now, what's interesting to me is that, of course, this rotation to what is usually a tertiary site is a great way to start off the game to really put the opponents on their toes, but at the same time, you're coming to Gym with a mirror ban in play, and that means that it's going to be a much harder setup. That said, obviously Deviants are prepared for this. They are the ones that brought out that mirror ban, so this is the last thing that Team 9 would be expecting. Instead, we've got some interesting utility, some lesser played operators being brought along, namely the Castle, and I suppose the Frost, who has, you know, fluctuated in and out of the meta for different reasons, but when it comes to bringing out interesting setups, you definitely want someone that can assist with that rotation at the very start with a sidearm shotgun. And of course, those Pogmats are fantastic on this site, especially with plenty of window entryways, potentially causing some chaos when it comes to the execute 4-9 when someone ends up in a bear trap that they're not quite expecting.
It's always the worst feeling when you see a player, you know, drones an area, but they just miss that mat and they fall through that window and find themselves chomped and stuck in place. So, we're going to see Mike play inside of construction. UMP primed and ready, in a great position to fight around these metal rafter beams. We hear that castle barrier getting cracked open by the sledge on that rappel. That will be James, and this is going to be an interesting take so far. Pressure mounting, the breach has already been opened up, as the Montaigne is going to be able to peer through and cause some pressure early. The invert rappel on construction will apply pressure, mean that cross is no longer available, and there might be an entryway from down below inside a garage, presenting a threat to anyone trying to hold on the CC and cash. A slow, methodical round so far, but Maui's already inside, met by that castle barrier and the Ella up close, and FO12 was the weapon of choice, meaning the French shield operator cannot really take a risk of dropping that shield, as that weapon can make very short work of anyone if given the chance to do so. A patient round, and it's very tentative moments now for Kovac, just trying to find a player that might be supporting the French shield operator, but no one's showing themselves yet, and the EMP tossed out, but tentative, quiet rounds, and a very tense situation to find for all these players.
Edging back and forth, Reich has important control inside of server, and that means that players on highway can start to do some work. Noob, I think iNoob has just jumped into sight. Has that happened? Yeah, the Thatcher just jumped in, took down one, and Saldanos responded with the swift shotgun, but that has emptied out some of that anchoring play, and now this stack towards cash may mean that they're feeling a little bit thin on the ground. Manu has forced his way into bathroom, for instance, and Reich has just taken out both of those extended anchors, claiming both construction and cash for himself. Now Spack and Saldanos are on their lonesome. They can't really support each other from these positions either. They're very distant. They've got to win some difficult ones, and James is going to make sure that Saldanos is not a factor in that. Spack's position is known as he's being chased down by the Monty. Drops the shield, lands the headshot, but Reich is there to grab a triple kill on the round, taking out the Jaeger, and a very solid attack onto Gym Bedroom will start off our here.
Ruthless, efficient, and effective. Team 9 were making very short work of that defense when given the chance to do so. They found that opening pick. Yes, it was a trade, but they used it as a catalyst to take control and really pressure the extended roam presence in Cash and the players on site. They'd done it in tandem, in unison, and it led to a fall and collapse of the Deviant setup, and they weren't able to hold on. One round in favor of Team 9, but you mentioned Reich finding those 2 kills in rapid succession on that extension to Cash, a key and pivotal moment, being able to shut down 2 players that could have rotated in support. A great play and really did open up that round. Maui will 6-pick away from the Montaigne, now brings that Nomad, and those air jabs can place a stranglehold on any team that wants to be daring enough to roam on Clubhouse. Once you get into the building, put them down, and you have somewhat peace of mind that you're flying watched, or at least protected in some way, shape, or form. Drones getting destroyed up by Magpie, who's going to place the ADSs, which are in the lore, I believe, also called Magpies. I think. Am I correct in this?
Yeah, Magpies. I think. I'm not too sure if they're called Magpies in game, but they are called Magpies in other places, in other FPSs, and in the real world, if such things exist. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. Interesting. Cute. It is cute.
I'm trying to think. I believe in somewhere in the lore they have been referred to as magpies.
Oh, maybe they have. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? They catch shiny things out of the air, and I mean, magpies don't tend to do exactly that. They'll take shiny things out of people's pockets and back gardens and stuff. But I mean, I don't know if any magpies have ever pickpocketed humans. That would be quite a talented magpie. But this is quite a talented magpie on the side of Deviants. He's going to have to extend his talent towards holding on to that rafters position. In fact, no, he's going to be leaving Kovac to do that, and instead Magpie is stationed on red stairs. But for the time being, Aztec has managed to open up that wall with very little resistance. Of course, Thatcher being in play means that it's very difficult to maintain any sort of stranglehold over those walls as a defender. So that's kind of to be expected. But now the question is, can they pick apart any part of this defense?
2 minutes left in this, so very early days of this round. A good hold upstairs inside of the rafters position. Kovac on that Legion can toss more of those goo mines as time plays out. And it will be very great to be able to make this a fortified position, meaning as you push up, you're going to be compromised with those needles, but he's not going to last too much longer as Reich sends that grenade up. It lands perfectly. Sandanos tries to get the trade and will do so. That's going to be Reich now off the board, a level playing field once again on a 4 versus 4. The Yana no longer a factor in this round. Gemini's can't gather information for free, and the one grenade in pocket no longer going to be used or able to be used to displace players from key positions such as Island inside a cache. James outside of on sub-roof might find an opportunity or find a way in here. iNoob's going to get caught by a C4 left in DBNO. The Thatcher in a very compromised position, stuck in no man's land, and this might be a this might be a very difficult thing or task to be able to recover this player, as now 2 players I should say, regrouping and retrading and trying to get control of Garage. A tricky revive, but coverage is there. Shots landing very close to Nomad and can't find that trade up to Sandanos, but who's going to rotate down towards Oil Pit? Perhaps no. Goes the long way around, go up the main stairs to regroup with the rest of the team via construction, as this is going to be a sub-minute round or sub-minute execution required. James finds a wonderful shot from roof on the SPAC, and now in a 4 versus 3 in favor of the attacking side, they might be able to just launch a catapult and get this execution to stick.
They're relying very heavily on the impact that Saldanos can make, and he's continuing to do that. Some nice shots sent down range by James L. Gray, but he can't quite connect or finish off at least these attackers. They have an opportunity to get a breach going. iNoob does find Magpie in the meantime. Saldanos doesn't have a C4 beneath. James L. Gray is actually the one with the C4. James instead takes down Sandanos, and now it's the second James who blows up 2 with a beautifully placed C4 towards that rotation. James and Malu now need to hold off this mute. Malu has the plant going down. He has no air jabs left to even protect him. Expecting the push from James. James swings on out. Knows there's one's covering from the window. Gets him. Gets the second. No! Manu pops off the diffuser and takes down the mute. A brilliant clutch there. So close almost for James Earl Grey. But that is Team 9 once again securing an attacking round.
A great round, a great execution from them, and they find themselves with 2-round advantage. Deviant struggling for control and grip of this matchup, but early days, and very much Clubhouse is beginning to slide in terms of an attacking favored map. I think that has been one of the slowest and most obvious transitions from a defender side of map to an attacking side of one that we've seen in Siege. Think about 2 SIs ago, where SSG were crowned your champions and how they were dominant on the attacking side of this map, and since that day, it has begun more and more of that movement towards being an attacker side of map. I love to see it though, because I really love this aggressive style of play and this aggressive meta that we're currently in.
Yeah, it's great to see maps develop like this, and it's interesting that we've got this kind of game to highlight it, because like we said at the start, these bans do kind of lend itself to more of a traditional style where you have this Thatcher in play. And let's not forget that the Thatcher is in play, so that is always going to skew it slightly in favour of the attack more than usual. However, I don't know. I feel as though Deviants are resting on their laurels at the moment, and I feel like by the laurels, I'm talking about Sandanos. He's being a lot is being asked of him in particular. In that last round, he did fantastically to cause chaos. He found that refrag onto the player Reich that claimed the life of the Rafters defender early on, and then also scooted on down to Oil Pit and managed to down one with a C4. If he managed to claim a kill in that situation, either onto the down player or onto someone that had gone to pick him up, that could have been it, because really Nine had no proper answer to that roaming play, or if you can call it roam play. It was, closely connected to the site for the time being, but besides that, I mean, besides sort of just ignoring him and going for their push regardless, they couldn't do anything about it. So I feel like Deviants, they need to step it up in terms of the anchor play that's going on. There were some nice bits of impressive play from James L. Gray there. That double C4 certainly gave them hope, but they can't rely on something like that every single time. I think the guns need to come alive across the Deviants.
They need to find something, some momentum, some turn of this tide. Pressure already beginning to feel very surmountable as, well, the main wall has been opened up. Drones established in great positions to have a massive coverage on the map, making sure no one can move with relative ease. Those drones acting as a massive denial of anyone who wants to try and go for the flank late on, as these players might begin to drop from Team 9. They can hop on them and provide a great call-out information for their team. Kovac once again up in the rafters, tries to hold on, and Reich finds the kill grenade yet again, mirroring the beginning of the previous attacking round of this site, but this time it isn't clearing rafters with an M67, it's clearing construction. And a great toss on towards Island again. A second one lands, not going to be close enough to find that smoke, but that's going to be a massive deterrent. They have an opportunity, they have an opening now, as they have that player count advantage.
And unfortunately for Earl Grey, he's like, hey, I'm playing well right now, let me take up this position on rafters, but he's met with the same fate as Kovac last time, and now we're back to seeing this Legion holding up here and under pressure. Considerable pressure, that is, with the protection of those ADSs. He does feel confident enough to swing out and find one, but he's immediately met with the bullets of Malu and takes it back to this 4 versus 3, this man advantage for 9. Sandanos is a lurking presence inside a gym, and I feel like he may have been undetected here. There's certainly no effort to drone it out, and I feel as though it looks like, yeah, James has his back turned, Reich has his back turned. They don't know about this player, Whippet. Oh, they just saw him. There we go.
Oh, you jinxed it. You put the caster curse on him, Jerry. How could you? But no compromise and has to fight their way out of it. Reich's going to find a second now in this round. Spack's next to fall. And a 2 versus 4. Might get a 2 versus 3 as Sandanos makes that C4 down below work. The Nokia call from hell, but Aztec's going to work on this plant speed, typing away as this defuser's going to land shots from down below, but the rounds are landing only inches away. An air jab connects to Magpie, displacing them, and now Sandanos left in a 1 versus 3. We have only 40 seconds. So we hit critical in this round and reduced to low HP and finished off with the AK-12. It was short work made when the opportunity presented it, and that's 3 rounds in a row for the attacking side of Team 9. Absolutely fantastic display from them.
3 rounds as well that we've seen Reich have an incredible impact for 9. He's on fire right now, and it's consistently landing those nades towards the top of rafters. He's got the support of his teammates to send in those flashes, send in those stuns, burn out the ADSs, and get the complete read on the position of whoever is playing up there. 9 seem to be incredibly proficient at emptying out that position. And they did it twice in a row after Kovac managed to retake it as well. He got a frag for his trouble, but was immediately met with Malu, who did also have a brilliant round on the attack, making good use of those Nomad air jabs and grabbing a couple of kills to his name as well. So, great performances all round from Team 9. And what do you do, Deviants? Like, at this point, you've struggled fair bit on most of these sites, and now you left yourself with Church Arsenal to come down to in round 4, and that's honestly a bit of a sorry sight, because it means, sure, if they manage to turn it round here and grab a round win, they think, great, this bottom floor site, this is where it's at. They can't go here again. That's the issue with coming here on round 4 and leaving it to, you know, a very late attempt here. Going gym first, it's a great way of setting the pace for things, but if it doesn't pull off, then you're left in really horrible situations like this one.
Yeah, you got to feel for them. They tried something new with their site rotation. They're going away from the core strat of going towards CC downstairs, and they've somewhat paid the price and been punished for it. 3 rounds down, and it's not the end of the road. They can certainly claw this one back. They can find some opportunities to get some rounds back on the board, and I don't doubt their ability to do so, but Team 9 have been playing absolutely incredible. They've looked uncontested, they've looked unstoppable, and they are really showing that they have a deep understanding of this map. The ebb and flow, how to attack it, even from their drone placements. You can just tell there's a level of understanding here from Team 9 that is very high level. They're trying to make an entryway, unsure of what they're going to be initially planning. It looks like a top-down is on the board. You see the Gemini replicator. No, that's actually Riker themselves walking around the top floor, trying to get that clear and get that map control established. So a good starting point. Inside the garage will be Spack, trying to daringly get close to that drone hole, exposing their ankles. Is not going to be something anyone's too keen on doing. But the ace is prone, looking for it. It's going to be a stalemate, I'd imagine, outside of here, but I think they're going to wait for the right timing to open up this wall and apply pressure to the escape tunnel, as it can be a massive advantage if you make your execution towards a split push.
Time ticking away. 1 minute gone. Still plenty of it, really, for 9, all things considered, and they have enough control for the time being to make sure that they can start getting these jobs done. Nice little secondary hard breach there on the buck, showing its worth, just creating that opening. That's all you really need on the dirt tunnel wall. Right, sending out a hologram to try and do some intel work. Actually, no, just to burn that first Syria gate. And obviously, that's in a position where it can fairly easily be reactivated by a defender, so they do need to be choice with how they expend their utility. We can see the effectiveness of these EMPs as the Selmas go down onto that bar hatch, but I don't think the attackers are aware of Soundownos, who's managed to slip his way through here, roaming on the top floor. I don't know what the reaction to this is going to be, or if there is going to be a reaction at all, whether he might get a free pick. Meanwhile, James does take out Spack. A very good opening frag for the attackers, finding the smoke with about a minute left to go, getting control of Dirt Tunnel, but Magpie is there to respond onto Aztec. Now Soundownos chooses his moment to strike, but he doesn't get anything for it. Earl Grey, however, does, as he finds Reich. And Soundownos takes out Inoob as well, finally getting that flank going. And now this is really difficult for James, who's had a great round, bless him, but the main task force of the attack just haven't. And Manu, with a very nicely placed Nomad air jab, does take out Soundownos, and it's a 2 versus 3, but with 27 seconds left, and the attacker's location's all known, this is going to be very tough. James just walks in with a lovely bit of buckshot on that skeleton key to find one, but he's instantly reflagged. Malu does get some shots sent his way by Magpie, and they actually instantly trade each other as we're left with one man standing on the defense, and they win it.
A great job from them. They were able to claw back one round and potentially use that as a launching ground, as opportunity to get more back. The deficit now reduced to only 2, but Team 9, they have 2 more chances to grow their advantage on the attacking side, and they've been playing absolutely fantastic, and this is just looking brilliant from even with that loss that they just suffered, the Deviants. Team 9 are still looking really good, really efficient. Hopefully Deviants can build upon that. They can really use that as a bit of a momentum break, a mental reset, and get some rounds back, and this might get a very close matchup as we go deeper and deeper into it as we return off the gym and bedroom.
So interesting, that's the only round that we've seen go Deviant's way, and they still are struggling to get any sort of opening frag. James was the one who got that onto the smoke, but really, again, it was all on Soundownos, and for the first time, it actually comes good. The roaming play making a big difference in that round. Really, the only kill that wasn't responded to very quickly, and it just turned the tide in favour of Deviants in that one. So, good stuff by this roamer. I feel as though still there needs to be a bit more of an edge to Deviant's play, because that wasn't the most solid of defences. It still looked a bit shaky. I do like this, however, from the Deviants now. Of course, they're going back up to Gym Bedroom. They haven't had too much success on the cash side of things, so they're holding firm, having faith in this setup. Really, the only thing that unseated them truly in this defense was Reich managing to storm cash and construction and get a swift double kill. So if they can manage to hold that off, if they can manage to essentially replicate that round but win that engagement, then they should be in good stead to lock this out. They are going with a fair amount of wall denial as well to prevent any sort of immediate breach on the gym side. And this is a puzzle that 9 have to solve, but they have plenty of time to do so.
Selma charges placing the wall, chewing through that angle, and going to create a line of sight and opening. But again, with the amount of commitment towards its extended hold, being able to clear this in quick time will be very vital for their attacking strategy. Santano's trying to perhaps mute trick the wall.
Yeah.
Not gonna work, because that sequence has already started. It might disrupt the second one, which it does, but that opening's been made. There is still a chance that can be used to catch people off, and I mean, good timing. It is going to be a little bit more difficult to do, but again, matches in play. That second EMP is primed and ready, and you know, Aztec using the rest of the Selma charges to create a large opening that they can walk on through, meaning they don't have to expose themselves to an animation whilst vaulting. Will make that job a little bit easier to find that initial entryway. A minute 35 remaining, and this is going to be a tentative few moments of both teams. Deviants hold the player count advantage with, of course, losing Reich early. Can't they hold on though, as Team 9 have been very effective at making these executions stick. A lot of damage done there, and Noob's in a very sketchy position. A single misstep, a single click of his S key, and he's going to be falling to his potential demise, but he times it perfectly, gets across, and we see that Spack has taken a lot of damage for their efforts. A single round will be enough to send them to DBNO or further, as James on the main stairs creeping up. No one knows, but Sandano's going through that rotate, and might get caught out, and does so! There's 2 kills in rapid succession. Team 9 in a great position now, and this might be the catalyst as they begin to collapse towards the objective.
Inub has just dropped into Logi, taken one down. He's deep inside of sight now as well. Kovac is surrounded, sends out a C4, but he may need his gun up as Inub will claim it. This is full sight control now for the attackers. James Elgrey can't push on through this rotate, and the pro peak comes through from James, his opposite number. Aztec finds Magpie a 9 with a couple of sneaky moves. Managed to salsa their way through Clubhouse and take the round win.
A great victory for them, a wonderful collapse. It all started with those 2 kills in rapid succession from the main stairs and from Logi. The collapse arrived absolutely perfect from Team 9, and they now find themselves with a 3-round advantage yet again. They're looking dominant, they're looking in control, and I don't want to put a wager on to say that they are looking to be the favorites to win this right now, but Deviants haven't seemingly got moving. They haven't got rolling. They're very slow off the blocks. Hopefully now, round number 6, the last chance they have on the defense, they can find a victory and build upon that moving into the side swap.
It's been a really impressive showing from Team 9. They've been so consistent. The one round that they lost, they still managed to grab an opening kill. And a lot of it has been through a couple of really sneaky moves, namely James on this, well, flex support role that he seems to be on, whether it be the sledge or the buck. He's just there in different positions. We saw him sneak into the tunnel and take out smoke. We've seen him now sneak his way up main stairs on a gym attack and find a returning flanker completely unaware. It's been brilliant. Inub as well, similarly, has on those gym attacks just snuck his way into these empty spaces. They're looking for these openings. It reminds me of Kavana's style of play in some ways. They will kind of congregate as a single homogeneous blob and find that opening and just exploit it and completely destroy any sort of gap in the defense. It's really, really good stuff from 9 that I'm seeing here. Deviants are being made to look like amateurs, quite frankly, by the way that 9 are playing, but I can assure you that Deviants are playing fairly well. They're doing a lot of things right. It's just that it's not going their way because 9 are the superior side at the moment.
I think that's the easiest way to paint this right now. The better team on the server as of right now is currently leading the charge. Team 9 just look in control. They look super dominant, and this is the thing that's somewhat mind-blowing about this league, is how Team 9, they're in 9th position. Deviants are above them, I believe, in P6, and look how dominant this display is. And you couldn't tell from looking at this where teams are in the standings and how much of a shake-up this will cause if, well, no matter who wins, because of the way the points are so close. The opening kill arrives, that's going to be James off the board, and very importantly, you're saying goodbye to a set of frag grenades, meaning it's going to be a little bit easier to hold onto that Raptors control. We have seen Reich being able to land them to perfection, but having only one set now might limit the use of that utility.
Also fairly important, that had no response from the attacking side, no attempt at the refrag, and the one time that they've lost a round so far, in fact this is the first time we've seen an opening kill go the way of the Deviants at all, so this bodes very, very well for them. They can play a little bit more safe here. They don't need to send Sound Downos out on these wacky plays. He can just lurk around this lounge area with the protection of his anchors holding these angles from above, and leverage this C4 when it comes to a plant, potentially. The one thing going for 9 right now is that they have a minute 18 left on the clock, and they have managed to gain control of Rafters fairly quickly. Removing all that utility, they can get themselves into a plantable position fairly soon, but the denial is there this time. You've got 3 C4s on the lineup of Deviants, so really 9 are going to be hunting for a pick before they continue this forward. They need to be rotating, sort of dissecting this top floor a little bit more dynamically, and that is what Magpie is going to not allow them to do by finding iNoob straight away.
Well, the 5 versus 3 now in favour of the Deviants in a great position to end this round, or end this half off in a good positive light. This grenade gets cooked, primed and ready. Kovac takes around half their HP for the toss, and yet another one lands as well. Does even more damage, but not downed, not killed. And of course, there'll be some technical issues, of course. If you can read the chat, you're seeing what's occurring. But we have 30 seconds left in this round, and who's going to be your victor? Sandanos will find the kill on the right now. Maui vaults on in to a horrible fight to take down towards the red stairs. Nothing connects, nothing lands on the side of the player on that area. But in a 5 versus 2, not going to be easy. Make it a 5 versus 1, and that's going to be all the damage on Kovac swings. And that is a round in favor of Deviants.
Unfortunate 4-9, the way that happened, it didn't feel like it was very good for them. But either way, that's a round for Deviants, and a solid one at that. That is about as secure as they have looked. It looks like we may have some sort of rehost. I'm not quite sure how it's going to go. We'll see and play it by ear for the time being. But let's just take a moment to dissect that round, because it was so much cleaner. It's the one time that Deviants has looked considerably more solid, and I don't know how they translate that over onto the attack now, because if only they managed to do something like that a bit early on, they wouldn't be left in the situation where they're now 4-2 down going into their attacking half, which, I mean, you did mention earlier that, for instance, the state of Clubhouse right now is a lot more attacker-sided, but when you've got, that sort of level of play coming up against you, I don't think you can justify it just by saying it's attacker-sided. There's some other elements at play, and Deviants, they just about managed to edge that one out with the assistance of a good opening frag that wasn't responded to. And, whether the meta is attacker-sided or not, you're still really looking for those opening frags to go your way.
Yeah, whenever a team finds the opening kill, they always put themselves in a great advantageous position. I believe, at least from a stat line perspective, if the defensive side finds the opening kill, they tend to have a 60% chance increase of winning out a round, and that just kind of puts in your mind about how much of an advantage getting that early kill, getting that first opening can provide of a team. Not only do you take away utility, you also have that momentum, that morale boost of knowing that you're only having to face against 4 guns, and realistically, if you just play a trade game, you're going to win that round based off an unresponded opening kill, and whatever team can find that tends to put themselves for a great position. Team 9 have been doing a great job getting the openings and capitalizing upon them, and even when rounds get messy, they stay calm and collected, and they make an execution that final collapse look like some of the most well-organized, well-orchestrated stuff I've ever seen, and you can tell it's just in that chaotic moment they're able to stay calm and collected and make everything line up and work for them.
But the overall story of the first half is that 9 have just been fantastic on the attack. They've always grabbed those opening kills. Reich has been a big factor in this, and like I said, sort of midway through or during the first half of that last round, it is like a Kavana style of play. They're finding the openings and they're exploiting them. That time round, there wasn't an opening on the Deviant side. They were very, very secure in their hold, and quite crucially as well for the cash defense, they held onto Garage without going down completely without a fight. That has been the issue so far for them, is that for Deviants is that they haven't held on to Garage quite as long as they would hope to, and that time around they did, and they're rewarded with a round win. It's about as simple as that. I'm wondering what we're going to see on the attack here from Deviants, and I'm thinking about sort of revisiting the band and seeing how it might occur to them to sort of take this forward. Of course, we've had a lot of Thatcher play, and that speeds up the rate of attack in general. You've also got, for instance, the Valkyrie in play, who occasionally does get banned out on Clubhouse, and we saw Soundownos using that to quite some effect on the Roam. It's just that it never netted the results that I think he wanted. So I could absolutely see Team 9 running with the Valkyrie as well, and trying to be a bit more successful on the Roam than Deviants were, at least. So that is something that Deviants need to be taking into account when they go into this round. How are they going to deal with a potentially fairly heavy Roam game from Team 9 given the bans? And is there an answer to that, a Jackal? Does that leave too many gaps in their utility game? Is there an answer to that a Monty, for instance, who can fit a lot of different holes and also speed up the attack? Does that mean with Thatcher and Monty that you've suddenly got really, really quick attacks? You want to supplement that maybe with a Ying and completely ignore the Roam game and go straight to sight? Because there's a lot of different ways that you can take a lineup like that with these bans in play and have still this kind of Swiss Army knife of lots of different ways of unpicking any style of defense.
I mean, you mentioned that the Deviants weren't able to have that success on the Roam game, and while they had the information or extra available in the Valkyrie, someone other counterpoint that is Team 9's drone game was absolutely brilliant. We saw a few glimpses of it when they hopped on those pre-placed cameras in great positions that had massive coverage, being able to lock down a great number of areas, and all those high traffic avenues where roamers would like to make large map rotations were all covered off and known. So that was going to be that was a massive factor in being able to shut that down, always knowing that there was a roam threat or a potential roam threat around the corner. And that's something that perhaps doesn't get enough credit when you talk about how anyone talks about how stuff gets broken down, is those pre-placed drones, that drone economy, because we don't get to see it. It's not easy from our perspective to look at where these drones are exactly pre-placed, what they're covering, and when they're being used directly. But I saw a few glimpses of them, and they were in great positions to be able to make that roam presence just a little bit harder.
Yeah, and we've seen some instances this week of those pre-placed drones really determining rounds and even maps. And I mean, that's easy to say because these maps have been so close. So many 7-5s across this Playday already. And the one that comes to mind for me yesterday was on Consulate. So many flankers were being caught out, coming up Visa stairs, going into Visa on a garage defense, and just not necessarily checking for flank drones and just being completely shut down. Similarly, on the side of, I believe it was Lockdown Ludens when they were attacking earlier on Oregon, they had a bit of an empty spot when it came to their flank watch on attack. There were times where they would attack... it was on Poggy Woggy's attack because they were attacking the basement constantly through Freezer and Laundry. And there were times where Ludens exploited that because they were able to come out of the rear stairs and take control of Meeting as part of a flank. And it's surprising that was never caught up on. So, yeah, making sure you have these kind of flank drones in these positions where you know that late in the round, the roamers, they aren't going to have chance to kind of check for these drone spots, and it's going to make sure that they're locked in and that they can't pull off these sort of late round plays. It's super important. It's something that we don't get to see enough while on cast for obvious reasons. It's a difficult game to spectate, and you can't always be watching the person that's sitting on cams all the time. But it wouldn't be as entertaining that way. So I'm not too fussed about it. But yeah. Shout out to supports. They play an important role, I guess.
I mean, I think I can back that message, as well as the former support player myself. They need more credit. The coast system is not in the game, so not everyone can see exactly how much that thermite is really coming into a team from drones. It's very much a very difficult thing to perhaps orchestrate or illustrate from our perspective, is paint that image of how effective and how important a very good drone or a very good support player can really be. Because we witnessed it, I believe, in Oregon a couple of times, where people were falling in behind Gemini replicators and behind hot drones, finding kills upon that. If you have a support player that can relay information quick, fast, and accurately on those drones that you can follow up behind it and have confidence knowing that they've cleared that corner, it can make such a dramatic impact to that initial entryway. And the same somewhat works on the defensive side. If you have someone on Valkyrie cameras or Maestros or Yokais who can relay pinpoint accurate information, it is such an advantage. Of course, you have yellow pings now to help relay that a little bit more clear, give a visual ping or representation of it, but having someone that is able to communicate well on a team in that support role can make an absolutely mental difference.
So, we've been sitting here for a little while. We do have the game almost ready to go. But before we do that, Whip It, I've remembered something that we did yesterday that we didn't carry forward to today. And we missed out the opportunity to do it earlier with the one game. But we can do it for this final match. And I know we're halfway through it. Deviants and Team 9, of course, if you weren't here yesterday. Badass University All-Stars, we're blessed with these brilliant logos and mascots for the teams and brilliant names. And we are basically making our predictions based on how well these mascots would stack up against each other in like a boxing ring. So yesterday we had some interesting fights, but today, Deviants and Team 9. Deviants is kind of like a devil figure with horns and flames and it's got like fangs and tusks and stuff. And then Team 9 is sort of looks a bit like Black Panther, but blue, as far as I can tell. It's kind of a superhero looking figure. So the devil versus a kind of cat superhero. I know I have a feeling I know which way you will go with it, but maybe you can prove me wrong. I'm gonna see if I've guessed right.
In a pure one-on-one matchup between these two logos, gotta be the Deviants. I think the Deviants would win this one.
Okay.
I mean, let's look at that dude and the Deviants logo. He's gonna be able to make short work of the team. What do we even call Team 9's logo? What is that character?
I've called it like I don't know, like the Blue Panther or something. It looks...
Yeah, well, I think that's fitting. It's pretty. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see it now. Yeah, I think the Oni in Deviants' logo will definitely make short work of the Blue Panther.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were gonna go with the more cat-oriented one, so I thought you would go with Team 9 there. And to be fair, if you had, then you'd be sort of betting on the better horse so far, because of course Team 9 are straight ahead. Here we go. Look, there's those logos just sort of flashed up on your screen for a second. I'm sure they'll be brought back in a bit, maybe. But either way, yeah. It would be nice to see if 9 can close it out. There we go. Finally, you can see what we're describing. So 9 being that sort of Blue Panther thing, Deviants being these weird devils. I'm honestly gonna. I would have said before the match as well, Deviants, because yeah, they've got the power of hell behind them. And also, you know, going into the match as well, they are sort of technically pegged as favourites just by the standings and records so far. But I mean, like we've said so far this season, there's no predictions. All predictions are off essentially. I don't think you can do it anymore after this Playday.
Yeah, it's very difficult to have an accurate prediction because, I mean, just look at Atlas versus Team Triton yesterday. Team Triton, second in the standings, a super strong team, posting some of the best results in the league. And Atlas, who've struggled to get off the blocks, who've really not found any success. And out of nowhere, they get that victory, and they really kind of send the entire upper half of this table into absolute turmoil. And I mean, that's what you love to see, a team that can be disruptive of that. And I believe we just got a whisper in our ears saying that we're very close to being able to get into the game. And well, here it is. We're finally back, able to resume it. Team 9 versus Deviants on Clubhouse, round number 7. The side swap has just occurred, and CC and Cash will be the site of choice for Team 9 to begin their defensive campaign.
Lovely little halftime break. If you're going to pick a spot for a rehost, it would be here. It makes perfect sense. You know, get your halftime oranges out. And we're going to see now, of course, Team 9 on the defense, and they are going to be starting on CCTV Cash. We have James on the dock, and he's not swapping off, so that's an interesting one already in this pick phase. The Frost being shown maybe to bait out a gym defense fake, but it's going to be swapped to that Valkyrie, which we did talk at length about in the way that Sandownos leveraged it during that first half, and Malu completely rightly swapping to it. Very powerful operator, one of the most banned at the moment at the highest level because of the level of intel she can provide, and she's just got a solid kill as well. Those C4s very useful. Impact as well can be swapped out for if you need a bit more of a utility focused hold. And then the MPX, the laser gun as I like to call it. It's just such a beautiful weapon. It seems to be iconic almost at this point, and she's one of my favorite operators, not least because of that weapon.
Well, I think, Jerry, that's a good taste in operator, because I think you share favorite operators with Nesk, the crownless king of Siege, and a lot of time it has made it very prevalent that Valkyrie is not just a support or a flex operator. You can throw your primary entry and fragger on that character and they can do work. It's one of the reasons why I love watching the Latin American region, just because you see that MPX, one of the lowest damage weapons in the game, popping off, and you could almost imagine, or it's almost as deadly in the hands of some of those players as the R4C was before the recoil became its current waviness.
Yeah, it's not often you see the R4C appear in the kill feed anymore. A lot of the time, players opting to go for that G36C, the secondary option, or the second option for Ashe. And personally, I love it, and it's a reason why I play a lot of Yana as well. These guns are just fantastic in the right hands, and I'm not usually the right hands. Here we go. We're seeing the strength of the Valkyrie already, pinging out that hologram and making sure that James doesn't necessarily need to expose his head to destroy it, because he knows it's not the real thing. He knows it's not the real deal. That breach being opened, though, does allow Soundownos access to be able to send some nades on up. Doc is a decent choice in this position. He's expecting to potentially go down. He's got that crouch level cover to protect him, but it won't protect his head from the bullets of James Earl Grey, who's opened up this CCTV breach already. And that's Rafters control lost for Team 9. With 2 minutes left, they have to burn a lot here as the Deviants are flooding into the garage.
Well, garage control falls, and this is going to be a very difficult experience to hold on to the side, considering this primary wall has been opened up, and Earl Grey is just locking it down, making it very difficult for anyone to move or rotate around, but Reich doesn't care, finds the kill, one back for his team. The vault out by Maui is there, detected quickly from that, and that position now known and compromised. You have a Valkyrie off in the roam down towards construction side, but the drones are happening, and I think an execution is going to be on the board reasonably soon, as iNoob queuing up as well to try and be that early warning system, that early denial close to that breach, as Sandanos finds the kill, the Maui growing the advantage of player count, and finds a second one as well. Right, got daring and got slapped down immediately. iNoob 3 canisters in pocket, make it 2, and tosses that first one out to try and delay some time, but that's going to be Magpie getting that plant down, and we're already working on it. A lot of hassle, lots of shots being fired up, but no denial is there. The coverage is perfect. Kovacs there to find it, and that's going to be Magpie who finds the final kill, and the Deviants win their very first attacking round. And I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be in a very attacking-sided clubhouse.
You may be right there. And Soundownos gets a tip of the hat from Reich after that follow-up shot onto the new player himself. And it was a really lovely reaction, basically single-handedly muting that entire roam presence, first taking out the Valkyrie inside of Jim, and then following up with the attempted refrag on his life and claiming Reich. That was a brilliant bit of reaction, excellent game sense as well, to expect that aggression to come his way. And from that point on, it was fairly simple for Deviants to continue to sweep up. There wasn't, you know, a lack of resistance from 9, but they just didn't have the bodies to commit at that point. So a great mid-round from Soundownos in particular, and Deviants do edge closer to tying us up. 4-3 the current scoreline, and we're going to be... Are we heading back to the same site? No, we are not. We are jumping on down to the basement with it.
Well, the basement is a much easier site to defend, just on the core basics that you can anchor up, and you really don't need to commit anything in terms of a roam presence. It's an effective site just by the sheer fact it's a basement. If you're able to hold on to those hatches and be aware of the angles and the dangers those present to you once opened up, you can be reasonably comfortable in sitting, holding position, and waiting for crossfires to arrive. That doesn't mean there aren't avenues for attacking teams to have success, and, well, that escape tunnel, that dirt tunnel, is a massive part of that. If you can open that up, you split site in half and make it very uncomfortable for any defenders to make a move or rotate around. I want to perhaps rewind our memories to what we just saw, the Evil Eye being placed upstairs, peering down over an impact hole onto that kitchen hatch, meaning they don't need the impact trick from down below, they have an Evil Eye to try and do the job for them. So an interesting use. We see it very rarely getting brought out, but perhaps they're just going to try and use as much utility as possible to keep that hatch intact for as long as they can.
Yeah, they're going to really need to rely on it because they've already spent both of those impacts in the setup. So, plenty of C4s, however. So this means that they can certainly try and leverage some sort of destructive capability from beneath the kitchen, expecting the pressure to come out there. I would be surprised to see that much stock placed in kitchen, because we don't see a sledge, for instance, on the side of Deviants, no buck either. So it doesn't look like soft destruction is top of their priority list, neither is Zofia. Kovac, though, will punish Reich for his early roaming, and a very swift roam clear coming through, but they do still have Aztec and James on this top floor to contend with, and they are now being spurred into motion because they cannot let their 2 anchors be overwhelmed by the 5 bodies of deviants that still remain between them and the site. Kovac is keeping a lock on the top of this main stairs, expecting the flank to come his way, but James and Aztec have other options as well. I believe Aztec has rotated back to site and left James for a slaughtering fest. Kovac claims him as well. Aztec has gone back down to garage, and Ainu just holding outside here. Everyone on 9 saying we need to make something happen. We have to get some sort of sneaky play going, and that's what Ainu tries, but Gray just slaps him down. No way should you lose that, Ainu. Unfortunate for him. Now Malu and Aztec are left in an almost unwinnable situation. Malu, the sole anchor Aztec discovered on the top floor against 5 defenders. They've got to do something impressive here.
Plants going down, Magpie is working on, and that's surely going to be a confirmed one. Yesterday is the information being relayed by Red Pings, but not a lot they can do in Maui now. Then in 1 versus 4 finds one, and don't do this to my heart. A Maestro and all, the nearly rounds of hurt. Surely it won't sing for this in this very tricky to win situation. 3 more to find. A player in dirt tunnel. I mentioned about how critical that can be to cut off rotations. We see a player crossing into blue now. Yellow ping is there, but caught by too many angles, too many openings. That's going to be Earl Grey finding that final kill, and that will be another round for the attacking side. So that is ourselves turning it back into a 4-4 scoreline, and well, that is quite something. We are definitely getting an attacker-sided clubhouse coming out here. You were right, Whippet. This is very, very attacker-sided. So what happened there? That was a failed roam, essentially. That was all that happened. There were a couple of players all committed to in fact 3 players committed to the roam, and not a single one of them netted any sort of early kill, so it just left the site very exposed. And I mean, despite the best efforts of the Maestro, he did grab a couple of exit frags. It was pretty pedestrian. That is a massive site. You can't cover it with 2 bodies in the same way that you can, say, Cash or a lot of other sites in the game where really 2 anchors is all you need potentially, especially when those refrags are available to an attacking side. You can't afford to lose that much on the roam. And I feel as though part of it was to do with the fact that as roamers, they didn't really connect with each other very well. They need to spend a bit more time in a Discord server, hanging out, you know, getting to know each other and have that friendship, that bond, that connection between them, so that they're ready to get each other's backs when things go badly. Things went badly for them early on, and they just deserted each other. That's not what good friends do, Whippet. No, it's not. I'd never leave you, Jerry. If it was a bad cast, I wouldn't just disconnect. And I'm always here to ramble and derail everything the moment I can mention Garfield card.
Oh,
and that's, yes, I'm trying to break the world record for number of Garfield cards going in. That's not a subtle hint at all, saying, wait, no, just get that downloaded. You know, you have to get that done before, or make sure you're not doing it during a game where you might have to keep your very close eyes on all the action.
Yeah, it's sitting there on 228 megabytes out of 1.4 gig, and it's just paused. It's just waiting. I don't want to risk it because earlier I tried downloading it and my face went all pixelated and it was rubbish. So I've got to. I missed the opportunity to do it in the break. I'm just gonna have to wait. I will be patient. I will have to wait for my lasagna. It's not quite dinner time yet, so we're just gonna have to focus on the game instead. Unfortunately for everyone.
Do you put your lasagna in the oven?
I wish I knew the quote off the heart. I'd have to get it up on the screen. That would just ruin it. No, yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. What idiot doesn't put his lasagna in the oven? Like, what, you're gonna microwave lasagna? No, no, that's rubbish.
I have the quote up beside me now, and it's like my brain hurts even reading it.
That's the point. It's meant to just destroy your mind. It's not meant to be read more than once a day, because otherwise you suffer real medical problems.
Wait, well, I read this far more than once already today. I've reposted it like 3 times.
Well, that explains a lot, to be fair.
Oh no.
About about you.
Oh no.
About your mental state.
But Garfield aside, we're beginning to see a very interesting matchup on Clubhouse. You mentioned it's getting attackers sided, and I'm not too surprised by that at all. The climate we're in right now leans towards that. Aggressive teams are finding a great advantage right now, really having a field day. The defensive side they're just not really being able to find that. They're not being able to, for either team, on the defense, they're just struggling to find their flow, find a place to stand on, and have any direct counter to when key areas fall or when those initial gunfights start happening.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. It's been a real struggle for the defenders at the moment. I'm wondering about Deviants and how they're going to sort of continue forward, and how they're going to basically make sure that they continue in the same fashion that they were previously to this rehost. It does sound like we're almost back in the game and ready to go fairly shortly, so thankfully you won't have to see my face for too much longer. Actually, we are unfortunately not. No, there's a false call. False alarm here. Apparently there are some issues with the servers at the moment, so we may throw to a short break for the time being, just to make sure that all these issues are resolved. But the scoreline is 4-4, so you'd be an idiot to go anywhere, because it's a really tense matchup that could go either way, and it is very important for both Deviants and Team 9 in this crazy fiesta of a league to gather every point that they can. So we'll be back very shortly after this break.
Spring comes, it's like the heat on my skin takes me back to the time met you on a Friday, halfway out at the door of the club, playing soul on the weekends, stayed in bed till Wednesday, fell in love with you right there and then. I was young, couldn't see that. Leather jacket, though it's too cold. Saw your face in the crowd, and I think without eyes, her she's perfect, yeah, she's beautiful. Never thought you'd be here, it took me by surprise when I met you in the doorway. I had a friend of a friend, never thought I would see you this soon, but hope she really loves you, 'cause I swear you deserve everything. Wish that I knew that sooner. We got sober, it was over, but I told you I'd do it all over again. At your place over spring break, a heartache, I'd do it all over again. Do it all over again.
blushing. Oh, you miss my touching. You do. Show me something. Give me more than one thing. I need more than less than I do. Say you a good guy. Make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it. I wanna see it. See how. Rewind. When we rewind, it feels so nice. I can't help how. Got this sweet talk. I'm already on my way. I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the lanes. Sweet talk. You need to say less to me. No need for no flowers, babe. I'm already on my way. On my way. We've been dancing all night long. Right here with you way too long. Don't want nothing here or now. But I'm done waiting. Done wasting my time. Got this sweet talk. I'm already on my way. I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the lanes. Sweet talk. You need to say less to me. No need for no flowers, babe. I'm already on my way. On my way.
Okay, thank you very much for waiting, everybody. We are back with Deviants versus 9. The score is 4-4. Never mind. So we're going to have a quick rehost to fix that. And unfortunately, it does mean that we will have a little bit of time, perhaps back with our faces, just to make sure that everything is fixed. So that's a very unfortunate thing to see. But what is some good news that I have to impart to you all is that I've taken this small amount of downtime to finally complete my download of, what's it called again? Garfield Kart Furious Racing. So I'm well up for playing that after this. Like that's going to be a whale of a time. I feel a little bit sorry for our players, but hopefully they are patient enough to put the value in these 3 points that are just so tantalizing on the edge of their grasp. They can almost feel them here with it.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are close, 4 rounds apiece. It is going to be, I think, another map where it's going to go right to the wire. I have a feeling all 12 rounds will be needed to separate these two teams. I don't know I don't know how I want to call it, because when you have such a prolonged rehost period, things can change. Teams talk,
Yeah.
morales can differ, and counter strats can be made. Again, it's just a way this works. Teams, of course, talking to each other, figuring out, and they've already played each other for 8 rounds. They know how teams want to play. They've have experience on both sides against their opposition. They're starting to figure stuff out. So counter strats might be a factor now, and we might see a completely different shape, a completely different scoreline and storyline as we move in after these rehosts are finally completed, which hopefully isn't too long. Touch wood, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a difficult day, to be honest. I think for the players, it may start to kind of affect them, but I think if they are made of tough stuff, which they should be, they'll have to be able to get through this. This is a test of their mettle as much as anything right now. They need to make sure that they have the mental capacity to keep going no matter the circumstances, right? Deviants, they've been on a good bit of momentum here. They can't let this stop them. They know that they're sitting on arguably the favoured side right now, and they've clawed back a couple of attacking rounds. They are level with 9 on round count, but ahead of them in terms of what we expect and what is par for this half. They could well end up on top at the end of this if they manage to keep that sort of willpower amongst them. So a lot rests on it. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I would love to see how Team 9 cope with a gym defense, because we've seen them lose Cash now, we've seen them lose Church now, and that Church defense, the basement defense, was a bit of an odd one. Of course, you've got lots of different ways of approaching that site, far more than, say, Cash. If you're losing on Cash, there's a lot of the time not much you can do about it in terms of changing a setup. It's more about maybe rotating some players, rotating a couple of operators, but the positions stay largely the same. Whereas on the basement, you do have a bit more free reign to revisit it, try a different style. They had a 2-3 split with lots of roamers, and that kind of didn't work for them. We did say that they weren't, bonded closely together enough. They weren't within that, very few seconds distance of each other to get refrags, and maybe it does just work out for them if they go for a turtle setup on the basement instead.
Yeah, I mean, when you see this, you lose your two core primary sites, and again, it's hard to even call them that, because outside of Bar, every site on Clubhouse is viable, and I will not hear Bar is viable from anyone. I have had many people try and say to me, no, will not believe it. I've only seen it twice in competitive play, and one of those was, I believe, almost a year ago now. That's a madness to say it's been so far away, but you're losing those two primary sites, those two very strong sites, and now you're going up to what has been for the longest time a tertiary site. You're putting yourself in a very tricky position, and when you look at that, it's a strong site, but it can be broken down easily. We've seen it being broken down very easily already in this matchup, and no matter how much an extension you have down towards Cash, it can always falter. There's a lot of ways to break it down, and it is a site that requires a lot of intricacy, a lot of interplay between teammates and core positions, but they've had time. They've had the time to formulate something, think about it, and always just prepare themselves mentally for diving on in, and the micro changes they need from the way they'll be playing to make an impact in this.
The fun thing as well about that Bar stock defense, which we never get to see, I got to see one very close up in personal during UKIN this season. It was the one time I've seen it happen, and it worked. It was Kavana playing against Victus, and they kind of just took Victus apart 7-0, and so during that they were like, hey, let's go to Bar stock, and they won it. So yeah, that can happen. It can work. There are ways of making it work, but that game was not a good day for Victus at all. So I don't think I don't think it really counts when this EUL side that just dominate this like the 4 promoted side. It was a bit of a mismatch, and that's the only real instance, I mean, if you want to call it comp, that I've seen it ever work. So yeah, I don't count it. It was funny.
Okay. But... We'll put it in the bracket term of a comp environment, perhaps
Yeah,
would be the best way of putting it. But I mean, yeah. When it's a bar stock victory, the question has to be asked: was it the strat, the site, or was just that team being absolutely on fire? Because whenever you see that site being played, it is just kind of a go for kills, hope it sticks, and try and grab the advantage while you can. And well, Our singer plays, and everything is right. Finally, it feels like an eternity, but here we are. Round number 9, Deviants versus Team 9. CC and Cash will be the site of choice. Not daring enough to go to bar as everything gets underway. A 6-pick from a castle on towards that bandit, likely to try and disrupt the thought process of Deviants. As you see that you see that castle flash, you begin to think of that gym bedroom hole. So they might be thinking of that subconsciously, and they might get a surprise when the drone phase begins.
Hallelujah, we are here, and it's great. I like the 6-pick as well. That is a really nice one. I'm surprised when teams don't 6-pick, because I feel as though it's a missed opportunity to try and play some mind games with your opponent. Castle is a great one because it really does make sure that, especially on a map like this, that your opponents are second guessing themselves. Maybe you force them into a 6-pick of their own to try and kind of counter what they might expect as a tertiary site. But Deviants, they didn't bite. That's a very clear kind of read. I mean, they have their lineup, and they don't want to adjust it no matter what. They've got a couple of hard breaches that work from range. Note they haven't really adjusted this lineup at all, dependent on the site. It works everywhere. That's kind of what you want on Clubhouse, because you can go to any of these sites, and the defenders have the opportunity to switch it around, especially after you've been winning attack after attack. They have every choice, and it is interesting to me that they have opted to go for this cash defense again. Last time round we saw 9 defend here. They lost control of Garage very quickly. So James will be hoping to do a better job on the dock this time round. They had time to sort of reassess the threat, and they decided to stick Aztec on the bandit to make sure that he can trick this wall. He will be able to catch the second detonation of that Selma charge, but doesn't look like it's worked. In fact, he tricked the wrong side, so it doesn't matter at all. James is being lit up, and now he's got to stay prone, really, to stay safe. A brazen peek, though, coming out from Inoob as he finds Magpie for the opening kill of the round.
A very aggressive and daring swing, but Magpie makes it work. Sorry, not Magpie. My brain is fried. Rehosts aren't good for a play-by-play mind. It just there's nothing to shout over. No gunshots, no bullets, no kills. I don't know what to think. But a very good aggressive swing. Inoob got that kill. Your Magpie is gone off the board. Thatcher is no longer a factor. What EMPs were in the back pocket, no longer available, of course, for use. The wall's been opened up and established, though, so that's going to be the primary goal achieved, at least of that Thatcher-Hardbridge combination. A lot of angles open up from this position. You got to worry about James now. If he has to be very careful of his positioning, can really not give an opportunity or get too daring with his positioning. Otherwise, the player on that balcony might be able to find some success. And while decides to rechamber his magazine at the wrong moment, takes some damage, but that benefit of being Doc, meaning you can just get yourself back with full HP. Flashbang's tossed up, and that's a nade as well. He's not going to survive that one, but he's in deep, you know. He can get himself revived. The advantage of playing Doc. But does he have any sims left?
Nope.
No, he doesn't. Spark will get one. Sandanos as well. Kovac traded off in the hassle, but James now essentially just a moving drone relaying information. It's going to be a 2 versus 2 now. Finally finish off, make that a 2 versus 1. Sandanos finds James, and this is all down now to the hands of Ainu, who got that very aggressive early swing to start us off, but can they finish us off now? But no! Spack, a wonderful shot all the way from top of rafters, lines up perfectly, and then yet again an attacking side winning a round on Clubhouse. That is the story of today, as Deviants find success. They begin to claw this one back. We said they would win in the boxing match, and can they do it here on the server? 1 round away from queuing up that match point advantage, guaranteeing them at least a minimum of 1 point.
James did such a good job on that rafters. You got a feel for him. There was so much drama that we were keeping track of in the garage that really the unsung heroes of that round have to be the sort of task force around the site from Deviants. The ace doing work shooting into site. Sandaunos as well was, I believe, joining him on that sort of push while the garage was being taken control of elsewhere. So that was a really nice push from Deviants. They got all of the kills they needed to, and eventually the final one actually turning out to be James. He did hold on to Rafters for so long, but if everyone falls down around you, that's not going to matter, unfortunately. So, Team 9, they're trying to find a different way to sort of work out how to defend Cash. They've done it twice now and failed twice, so they're bringing out that clash. We saw Joe leverage this so well yesterday for the side of Atlas. I mean, he had an awful game, but when he swapped onto the clash, he was just somehow a wall that no one knew how to deal with, and he may have finished the day on something like 2 kills, but it was an admirable performance nonetheless, which is being very generous, but it was important that he was there not taking shots. Yeah, it was a weird game.
I was speaking to Joe earlier today, actually,
Oh, brilliant.
about some of those core moments that we mentioned. Do you remember he took a lap around the map without touching his mouse? You predicted that he was eating. Confirm, yes, as he described it, he was left hand on his keyboard, right hand shoveling noodles into his mouth. So, you know, if you want to have an effective time on Clash, just eat while doing it. And the other time, though, when Habana was fighting him, bottom rafters, he said he just turned up his DPI and started spinning, so he couldn't get killed. So I thought that was a nice player insight. Of course, the opening kills happened. That's going to be James who falls. Your Mozzie's no longer available. Deviants, again, setting the pace. The attacking side, finding an opening kill and removing pretty core bits of utility. And I'm getting flashbacks of Habana versus a Clash in Garage. Oh no, we really are getting a replay of Joe yesterday, but this time Reich falls off the rafters. Inoob gets one back. Sandano's falls. Iana's nades no longer a factor. That can be a massive advantage now as Inoob plays in that lounge. Might have a factor to the players trying to push in the garage, but they now know he's there, and I don't think too daring to get aggressive outside. Oh, he gets aggressive on the Kovac and finds a wonderful spray. Gets the player holding that main door and grabs his team the player count advantage in a 4 versus 3.
Brilliant hold coming through. This Clash is actually a revelation on the top floor. It's making sure that everyone holding these long angles does have intel on the defensive side. It means that they can take the fights that they want against attackers that have their attention elsewhere. Aztec landing a lovely headshot, just swinging, crouch peeking that wall, taking out the ace. And now, well, his duty has been done, but it's leaving Magpie and Spack in this 2 versus 4. The support again from Inoob with a triple on the round, and Spack has it all to do in a 1 versus 4. He decides to sneak on out of Garage and take a different approach, but he still has to deal with Inoob, who's been an absolute menace down here in Swamp, just jiggle peeking around those stairs and decides to fall back into Garage. 50 seconds left. Diffuser is cold on the Garage stairs, and Spack really has to hope that these kills are going to be gifted to him at this point. Inoob on very low HP, but you've still got Mali and Aztec on site. This is such a difficult situation for the Deviants. They are around ahead, but not for much longer, as really Spack looks just to be saving KD at this point, waiting for the kills to come to him, and Team 9 are having none of it.
Yeah, they're not going to take any risks, any gambles. Stay composed, relax, and just wait for every single second to drain away. What's our observer typing here?
Yeah, we've had enough pauses today, and this guy wants us to ramble for even longer. I think Whippet, these players just love the sound of our voices, right? And the kills do come flooding in his direction, but it doesn't matter, because the Clash and one more defender are still alive, and you can see... Oh, I like that cinematic angle of the final death of Smoke. That's quite nice. The long through the window and then covered up by the bomb dispelling. That's really, really cool. I like that. You don't get to see that every day.
Well, the players might do their best to simulate pauses. Hopefully, the action won't stop anytime soon, as we're now in the round 11. I said we would need all 12. We'd need the end of regulation to separate these two sides, and, well, who would have guessed it? We're guaranteeing we go the distance. So this is going to be one of the most important rounds of this matchup. It will guarantee, well, either team, whoever wins it. Come on, words work. The pauses weren't that long. Whoever wins this will guarantee themselves at bare minimum 1 point. For any team, of course, how close our standings are here in Buell, that's still somewhat of a victory. Even a small one, it's a victory nonetheless. But you, of course, lose this round, you lose that guaranteed, or lose that chance of 3 points, and that's a massive blow for any side.
Yeah, just to turn our attention briefly towards the stakes again, because we're finally at a juncture where it could begin to matter round by round what's going on here. Of course, Deviant's currently sitting on 8 points. If they win this in regulation, catapult themselves up to second place. In fact, if they win it at all, even in overtime, they end up in second place ahead of Triton and the 9 pack, if we were going to call them that. 9 themselves, sitting on 7 points, can actually do the same, but only if they win in regulation. So they need a perfect couple of rounds here to finish second, but both these teams know the stakes. Both of them know that they can be pushing for these very top spots and preferential seeding when it comes to the playoffs. They could even be challenging Imperium of Mandem for that automatic qualification spot. So it's very important stuff here, and I think both of them will be going for this regulation win. Of course, every point really does matter in this league, but I'm sure they won't be too fussed with an overtime win either.
Well, a dub is a dub. I don't think anyone can turn their nose up at that one. Getting more points to your name in the standings is always something you want every single play day. And I mean, you always want more. That's just the way of it. More and more is what teams want in terms of points and round victories and map victories. I think they're going to fight tooth and nail for this one. Impact tricks happening, so SpaceX Towers pilots are going to get burnt away. 2 will detonate successfully, though, so they're going to be able to chip away and eventually open up this hatch. But the next problem is dealing with, or to solve, is the Saria Gate. It will force another bit of utility to be committed away, and of course, Havana can deal with that. Toss a flashbang on in, but if you're going to find yourself an engagement, you might want to be able to try and win that, so you can put that flashbang through the Saria Gate to open it up for the rest of your team. I know he takes a lot of damage in return, but stays alive to fight another day. As James finds the opening, kills Sandanos, gets aggressive from the pool room table, and falls victim to the MPX. We mentioned it can be a laser beam, and the Nomad swings perfectly. A great pre-fire landing, and a trade outside of the golden window, but a trade nonetheless. If we find ourselves once again in a level playing field in terms of player counts, well, these teams tied on points, tied in player counts. This really is going to come down to the wire, tooth and nail brawl. A minute 25 left.
Losing the nades and the near infinite droning that the Yana brings along could be a bit of a problem moving forward. They still have plenty of soft destruction in the hands of Magpie and James Earl Grey with those patches to try and work the kitchen floor and force those defenders out of that Canadian position, because it looks like they are looking for a Moto and main push. You've got to be very dynamic when it comes to these pushes on Clubhouse. Just weaving, finding an opening, making sure you're punishing any sort of positional error on the defense. It looks like James Earl Grey has done exactly that by finding himself in an empty dirt tunnel, and that means that Reich and Ainu have to fall back somewhat. These 4 defenders are in a difficult position, but Reich is actually the one to take down Magpie, who decided to drop kitchen hatch. Reich again onto James Earl Grey, doing brilliant work from deep inside of Armory. Aztec is completely unknown as Kovac finds Ainoob eventually, but this flanking Jaeger is not dealt with. He does win the fight against Spack, and it almost takes down Kovac, who's the last attacker left. He finally gets that pesky Jaeger, and he's on a triple kill for the round. With 20 seconds left, he's going to have to find the 2 remaining defenders to ace clutch this one. Sends out a drone to try and scout out the remaining ones, but he finds Reich immediately directly beneath him. Can't try and take this fight. It's going to be almost impossible to drop. Reich is the one to seal his fate again with that P10 Roni, just working it so well, and the defenders of Team 9 claim another round.
A very, very critical and important round that they now move themselves on the match point, meaning one more round. They are so close to being able to get this done inside of regulation for all 3 points, of course, guaranteeing themselves the bare and the minimum of 1 if overtime is the storyline. But Deviants on the attacking side, which we have seen so far in this matchup, has been the beneficial side. It's been more effective. 9 really going against the grain, finding success in the defense. Can they do it again? As Gym Bedroom is their site of choice. Round 12, end of regulation. I said we'd need all 12 to separate these teams, but do we need even more?
We could. We do not know at this point in time. Interesting 6 pick coming out there from the Nomad to the Sledge, because they know that this is likely to be a gym defense, 9 having won their previous 2 defenders on Cash and Church, unless they want to bring out that dreaded bar stock hold that we were talking about. The Nomad certainly is useful on this push, but I suppose the Sledge, with the extra nades in hand, bringing their total to 4 with the Yana alongside him, is a bit more useful overall, and they try and hide the fact that it's Jim by 6 picking from the mute to the castle, but that's never really going to work. An interesting one to come off, though, because you're leaving, for instance, the Melusi and the Legion in play, when really, arguably, the mute is a bit of a stronger pick. Maybe the fact that this this Thatcher has been put through the ban phase means that they are not too keen on leaning in too heavily on the Wardenal, accepting perhaps the fate of these Electro Claws, and maybe just looking to give themselves a bit more of an edge when it comes to the gunfights. These Banshees and Goo Mines can be a real menace when it comes to them.
They really can be. I mean, Banshees, even though they've been changed to make them a little bit easier to deal with, they can still leave you exposed for those seconds it takes to turn, aim, and shoot at the opening critter once you enter its range. Much better than how it used to be, though. Doesn't force you have to commit explosive utility to it, and I'm always welcome to a change like that. It opens up the ebb and flow. Sledge cracking open under that CC wall already, looking to make a fast entryway, and that might be the style of play Deviants want to take, but instead of rotating away, just leaving that opening there for the teams to use later on in this round. Again, we're seeing how effective having a Thatcher is. Sandanos takes a lot of damage early, and the Kaid going for a trick here. They're doing a great job of it. Will it be able to deny any of those? Well, denies one, I believe, on each of the sequences, yes. So, well, at least some successful job. But no, I actually believe all the MPs were dumped as well, so that's going to be 2 successful sequences used by those perform those charges, giving a great opportunity to have a long line of sight down the entirety of that pipes corridor upstairs, and give an opening once this execution begins to roll.
Absolutely no way to counter that, but you can't counter someone swinging you if you're not looking their way. Reich will find Sam Downos and get it down onto Spack. That is huge from this new player. 9 may well have just sealed their position at the second place of this standings for now. They found themselves 2 big opening picks without response, and now leaving Deviants in a 3 versus 5 on a gym defense. I did not expect to see the defenders edge ahead so quickly, and now James, Earl Grey, Kovac, and Magpie. These are the 3 that need to make something work. They have about 90 seconds to do so. How are they going to do it? They're going to rotate, find some more openings. They already have Jim open. Maybe some pressure towards Logi would be the way to do it. Maybe it's picking off Ainoob, who is this lone player inside of Cash. He doesn't have any support from construction at all. James is going very far away, trying to sneak up on Magpie, essentially, with this long-range peek towards the jacuzzi balcony, but he's not finding anything for it, so he ducks back away. Kovac doing a little bit of his own drone work to see what he can fish, but 9, they're not biting. They are not showing their heads at all. This could be the way that 9 win it, just burning the clock.
Waiting for every second to drain away. Every single time that clock ticks closer and closer to 000, the advantage sways in favor of Team 9. With only 35 left to go, Deviants need to make a play happen now, and it might be a heroic one required. Salma primed and ready to chew open that 3 again, and that's going to be the sign. That's going to be the opening. Vaulting on in. The angles is open up, and Maui finds the opening kill. James left him DBNO, but it's a 5 versus 2. A technical 4 versus 2. I'll make it a 4 versus 1 now. It's going to be Magpie gets aggressive, vaults in the bathroom, but caught between a rock and a hard place. 3 more to find. 14 seconds left to get their team into overtime to keep them alive in this matchup, but surely it's going to be insurmountable odds. Goes to the rotation, but no, shut down by Reich with the P10 Roni, who gets it all wrapped up. And well, it took us a long time to get there, but your victor has been crowned, and Team 9 grab a 7-5 victory here on Clubhouse.
And what a turnaround. We were saying this could be looking like an attacker side of Clubhouse. At one point, Deviants were 5-4 up, and Team 9, they played that perfect game of Siege that we were talking about. They did exactly what they needed to close it out in regulation, gather all 3 points, and propel themselves all the way up to second place. What a fantastic performance from them. They must have been watching all these games, and they've been slipping down and down the table, everyone leapfrogging them throughout this Playday that's been so dramatic over the past few days, but they have the last laugh. Congratulations to Team 9 for a stellar performance. Deviants just falling short of the mark. There are some real good signs of a fantastic team in that one, but Team 9, they grabbed 4 attacks, and there's a lot of the time you just can't afford to give away 4 defensive losses on Clubhouse. Team 9, well played.
It was a fantastic performance from both teams, but again, showing how close they were in terms of skill, needing all 12 rounds to get the job done. And it looked like until the bitter end that we could even potentially see an overtime. I love close matches, and of course we've seen 2 very close matchups already today, with both of them ending in 7-5, the closest you can be with inside of regulation. No team is going overtime, no points getting dropped in that way, but what a play day it's been.
Yeah, I mean, this is just ball in a nutshell, right? It's always this close. It's always 7-5s or overtimes, and I just love it. It's fantastic competition. It's really good to see. I want to give a big shout out as well to the players in that match that really struck my attention. Reich, obviously we expect a fair amount from him. He's got that Yukon 2 experience. He's stepped up a notch in his past year to improve his game, and it's really showing. But also you've got to give a big handout to James as well on the defense. He was fantastic as the doc in a lot of those garage holds. He was consistently making an impact, grabbed a few entry kills as well on the attacking side. So a big performance from him as well, and he shouldn't go unmissed. But yeah, brilliant game from Team 9 and an excellent play day all round with it. I'm excited to have been here for this whole time. It's been a long slog this last one with so many rehosts, but we got there in the end, and Team 9 fully deserve those 3 points.
They really did. We got there, and that's the end of not only Playday 12, but all of the week, or all of this week of games. We got nothing left to give, and it's going to be Monday until you'll have to wait to get your next dose of Badass University All Stars action. And I tell you what, we got some interesting matchups coming next week. Again, we got Veggie Patch versus Poggy Woggy, Man I Love Frogs versus the Ludens, and Atlas versus Imperium of Man. Them all queuing up next Monday, and one I will say keep your eye on will be Atlas versus Imperium of Man. Them Atlas getting the upset on Triton yesterday. Can they make a lightning strike twice? Well, you have to wait an entire week to find out, but it will definitely be a worthwhile matchup when we get there.
It certainly will. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be with you. I'm going to be leaving you all in the supple, soft, capable hands of Whippet, Cairo, and McCready for next week. But it's been an absolute pleasure doing this double header with you, Whippet. It's been fantastic, and I think we should round it off there. It was just a wonderful day. I'm glad that everyone came along and stuck it out for this long couple of games. But thank you very much to you guys at home for coming and watching. Thank very much to Science, our observer, and Noah, our producer, as well as Brad and Santa behind the scenes for doing all the admin work and making sure that this league can run as smoothly as it does. Thank you to the players as well for bringing us such a spectacle today, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.